District 5.
Bruce Alexander, Mayor. Oh boy, as we do every meeting, we start with citizen comments. City Council will hear comments from any citizen or visitors who must address their comments to the presiding officer. Rather than individual council members or staff, employees, clearly the microphone, state your name, residential address before speaking. Speakers will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes for testimony. In accordance with the State Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. That can only be taken in a future meeting. Is there anyone who would like to make citizen comments? I'll ask one more time. I always do. Anyone make citizen comments? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item 4, presentations. I'm not sure of that, but discussion and review on establishing city council goals, objectives, and shared visions, including roles of the mayor and city council, expectations for governance and leadership, decision-making responsibilities, planning for future growth, strategic priorities, review current mission and mission statement, and welcome Kathy Hyde, and let's go from there. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, well, thanks for all being here, and glad I could come and see Castroville and learn a little bit more about it. So I did do a little bit of homework just to learn a little bit about the town, so it's nice to be here. And I appreciate the invitation. So I had a chance to talk with each of you just a little bit, but maybe just some introductions. So Sheena and I had a chance to meet with you, and I think that you are a returning council member, right?
I'm on my 4th term.
Okay, yeah. And been here for a while.
Yeah, my husband and I retired from the military. His family's on the West Coast, mine is on the East Coast, and they have to call and say they're going to be busy.
Okay, yeah, kind of like middle ground.
Yeah.
She is also, excuse me, may I add to this? Our mayor pro temps, or we elect a mayor pro temp every May. It's a 1-year term. She is now in her 3rd term as a mayor pro temp.
Okay. Step in and be it.
Houston.
Okay. All right, and Houston.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you have, so you're returning as well, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm still in my first term,
still in your first term. Okay.
second year
Yeah, and you've been here for a long time as well?
in Castroville, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I figure everybody kind of has a little bit of history here.
How long have you been here? 20 years?
12 years.
Okay. Yeah, quite a while. Nicole?
So this is my first term, my first couple of months. I did grow up in Castroville. By the time college rolled around, I left for about 20 years or so, because my career education opportunities, there wasn't anything like that, so I had to go to the world to get it. And then my family still lives here, so I moved back a couple of years ago to bring that expertise and bring those programs into my hometown.
Okay.
So
Nice. Yeah, came back home. It's kind of like the Hallmark story, everybody goes back home. All right, Tobin.
Well, retired military, 25 years, found Cassville by luck.
Oh.
Moved here 15 years ago, enjoyed it, first time in office, first time doing much of anything, so, after my service, so.
Nice.
We're getting going here.
Okay, all right. And Valerie?
yes, I was born and raised here, left for college, joined the Army, did 20 years in the Army. Background is 10 years as a signal officer, 10 years as an information operations officer, program management and planner. Next week will be a year post-retirement.
Nice.
So this is my first time, my first term.
First term, okay. So we have 3 that are first time. Houston just finished his stellar year, so kind of, not quite in the middle, but has a year ahead of you guys, and then this is your, would you say, 5th term? Or 4th term, okay. All right, and then mayor.
Okay, Bruce, retired public works director from the city.
Here.
In the city.
Yeah.
It's been 25 years retired, went to 18 years with the rural water system managed there. And then my wife is originally from here, so I married the town.
Yeah.
So,
Came back.
and, you know, and then last year, you know, I'm a classic guy that ran for mayor because as people ask me, it wasn't I was against everybody, it's just I didn't agree with the direction of travel, and I wanted to drive the bus. And at least try to steer people in a different direction. And that's my whole goal all the way along, and work with council to do the best we can. Kind of, at least, one of the things I believe is get back to our core values and move forward from there. Understanding that changes are inevitable,
Right.
but it's how you manage it to move forward.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I've been doing this work, I hate to say it, but I started off at the State Chamber of Commerce in Hawaii as my dad's last tour of duty. My dad was 23 years, Signal Corps in the Army. Lived in a lot of different places. In fact, my first U.S. school was Fort Hood. My dad got stationed there, but I did first and second grade in Versailles. My dad was stationed at Camp Deloge. The Gaulle kicked us all out, right? The base was closing, so we finished up our third year in Stuttgart. And then fourth grade, Fort Hood, went to part of fifth grade and part of sixth grade in Hawaii. My dad went to Vietnam. And we were there for about 7 months. My mom is from Hiroshima, Japan. My dad is from New Zealand. But she really liked Hawaii because she grew up on an island on the coast of Japan and she really liked the Asian culture. Then my dad said, okay, let's continue on. And the next base was we lived at Fort Myers, Arlington. My dad was stationed at the Pentagon and he had one last tour of duty. My mom said, let's go back to the Pentagon. So that was great. That's the longest place I ever lived. So that was great. Got to go to finish high school. You know, I went to 9 schools in 12 years as a military kid. So, you know, you're used to being new all the time, but it was nice to stay in one place for a long time. Went to college, and my last job there was working for the Chamber of Commerce, which is an advocacy organization, you know, economic development. That was great, and then I got lured away over the water. My whole family was still back in Hawaii. I got lured to Denver, Colorado, to run a national entrepreneurship program for the Kauffman Foundation. They are located in Kansas City, the world's largest entrepreneurship foundation. That was great. I had a chance to work with 10,000 entrepreneurs in 36 states. That was humbling to realize how hard it is to run a small business. They don't cost, there's a lot of things they don't know. A lot of them are probably like 2 months from closing. They need a lot of guidance. So that was really great having a chance to work with them and then decide to go off on my own. So I've been doing facilitation, strategic planning, leadership development, team development for 30 years. So I love what I do. I like working with organizations that are mission oriented. I did my time in corporate before I got to the chamber. Once I got to the chamber, everything was about mission. That really touched me because it's something about showing up every day knowing that you are trying to do your mission and achieve a vision instead of trying to sell a widget. You know what I mean? So it's a very different feeling. So I mostly just work with nonprofits. I had a chance to meet Mr. Alexander because I did some board work with the Texas Rural Water Association. I worked with many associations. I got here because my only child, when he finished college in Boulder, Colorado, software engineer, got recruited by National Instruments. He's in Austin. He still works there. He has been there for 25 years. Still loves the organization, culture is everything. Loves the culture, and started a family and asked me to move. So I left Colorado in 2013 and came to Austin. I have 3 grandchildren now. My youngest is 4 now. You talked about your 5.
My youngest is 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
they are. So anyway, so about family. But since I moved here, I've had a chance to work with so many Texas-based associations, Texas Pharmacy, Texas Recreation Park. Had a chance to work with, on a national level, state foresters, National Beef Council, just a lot of really great industries, really trying to do great work and really listening to their challenges. The nice thing though, I think what you're trying to do is you're really focused on Castroville. Again, it's about mission, It's about, trying to maintain what makes the place special. Like you said, growth is inevitable. Just driving here, I could just see all the new freeways being built, all the new housing developments. So it just brings a lot of change, and the hard thing, I think, is trying to manage that change in a good way, so that you don't just become every town USA, which is sometimes difficult. So I appreciate what you're doing. My hope really is that we're going to have an opportunity to work together on a high level for the plan. I told Leroy that if you guys want the slides, really for me, it's more for facilitation purpose, but they have a copy of it, you can certainly have it. When we think about purpose, why we're here, it's really about alignment, right? We want to align the leadership. That's, with the mayor and city council, definitely looking at the direction for Castroville, and hopefully having a sense of alignment around that direction. That's really part of your role. You're gonna have day-to-day kinds of things that come up. But I think having an overarching view of what you wanna do with Castroville in terms of a direction at a high level, not every day fixing sidewalks and doing this signage, and yeah, those things are gonna come up, but it's about creating more of a longer-term strategic direction that's high level. So that everything you do, the litmus test is, how does that fit with what we want as our overarching? It's also thinking about now, why now? Got new leadership, it's perfect time, right? Got 3 new councilors, we have a relatively new mayor, this is the time to really come together and I think part of that process too is learning how to work together. Because anytime you change members on a team, the dynamics change, right? You can just have one new person that can change the dynamics. I've heard lots of situations where we got one new person and then all of a sudden, this sense of the room changed. Yes, it will. Okay, so, and every team needs a little while before they're really performing at a high level. And part of it is just getting to know each other and trusting each other, finding out, what's important to each person so that you feel like you know each other and that you're not at odds with each other, right? So that's our hope. Let's talk about alignment, and really our focus is to look at priorities. And we're gonna look at priority areas. And what I find for good practice is maybe 3 to 5 priority areas. If you have too many, you find yourself strapped for resources and you kind of see there's a lot of redundancy. And if you have too little, like just one priority or 2, you get very tunnel vision. And so it's good to have 3 to 5. We're gonna think of the draft that I gave you, we're kind of looking potentially at 4. And the information I gave to you in terms of your, I gave you a goal, strategy, success measures bank. We're gonna really dive into that tomorrow. That's not me writing your strategic plan. That's me interpreting what you all said in the survey, okay, but also looking at what the city has already adopted as directional. And saying, okay, based on, because you guys are the newer voices and all of that. So listening to that, looking at some of the longer term initiatives that were approved earlier, what seems to be logical for you guys as priority areas? That's what that document is. It's just saying, this is a compilation of the common themes. Your job is to decide what to change about it. Okay? I just think that's easier than starting from scratch, because then you have to go back to the survey, go back to your historical, preservation, your infrastructure plan, your master city plan, right? So I've already looked at that. I'm just trying to say, this is what I see as being constant and new, like growth and all of those things. So if you think about it, it's really creating a new set of expectations, and hopefully, the way I look at it, when you have a leadership role like this, even if it's temporary, and every time I have a chance to serve on a board, I always say to myself, I am here for a limited amount of time. What you're trying to build might take decades, but I'm here for this amount of time. How do I help build, the next 10 miles? That may be all I'm here for, right? Then somebody else who's gonna step in and either continue it or change it, but I'm just part of a really short continuum, right, of time, and I think you all are as well, even if you're gonna be, getting reelected and staying here, you get a chance to build another 10 miles, but you're never gonna see the whole thing to the very end, is realizing that, right? So we're all gonna take advantage of that opportunity. Outcomes, I put together some planning principles, which really I sort of look at as like rules of engagement. What are some things that we can use as a guide as we're working together? Part we want to do today is refine that, because again, I'm giving you something to start with, not something finished, right? So I need your input on that. I'm going to look at mission vision, because in the survey, not everybody really thought the mission vision were quite, and you want to changes. When you write a mission vision statement over time, as your community starts to change, it should be updated. And so I think what I saw in the survey was, 60% saying, it's not quite there. So I wanted to, have you take a look at maybe some drafts. Try to keep, I think, the essence, but again, I don't want you to start from scratch, so I just want to give you some options to look at. And today, by the end of today, it's confirming the strategic priorities, just the 4. Okay? Not building what's underneath it. Just saying, are these the 4 areas that would be the cornerstones of our plan? Tomorrow, when you come back, that's when you're gonna decide what the goals and strategies are, and what does success look like. Okay, that's tomorrow, because that starts to build that next layer down. And success measures are important, because how do you know what success looks like? So you're going to suggest some potential ways of measuring success for each of those priority areas. After we're done, and hopefully what we have is, I would say 90% of a high level plan. That's it. Then it comes to the city, and your job is setting strategic direction. Their job is saying, okay, how do we take different initiatives and put them underneath this direction? What do we need to budget for, right? And they're gonna create that next one and present that to you. Because that's saying, based on your direction, this is how that builds out for the city operation, okay? And of course, every department goes further into the weeds. All we're doing is we're creating framework. The way I look at it is strategic plan is like a house. Mission vision's the roof, and the priority areas are the rooms of the house. This is work that we have to do. With some indication of what the goals and strategies, broad strategies would look like, because we need to give that to the staff direction. Because everything we decide in city council has to align back to the direction that we agree on. Okay? But our job is not to go into the weeds and look at every little thing that city administration is doing. Their job is to align with you. But there's a difference between providing governance, which is what you guys are doing, governance, oversight, accountability, versus operations, which is the paid staff whose job is to do the day-to-day work to make that plan. That makes sense? And it's hard, believe me. Going to the weeds is easy. Staying strategic is hard, because it means like being an eagle. 30,000 bald eagles. Yeah. 30,000. You gotta have a 30,000 foot view, okay, and provide guidance of overall it should look like this, but not get into the how and stuff. It's the what.
Yeah, I just wanted to, we talked earlier, I just want to make sure that we started down this, we started down this process a year ago, where there was an apparent change in direction of the city based on the council and the new mayor that was elected last year. Which when we started wanting to do this, so I think Councilman Marshman was one that was leading this, so we could collectively get together and provide staff with the direction that the city wanted to unfortunately, we weren't able to get everything all together in line to get that turned out. And then when we were ready to do it, here come along an election. So there's been delays in doing, I'm glad we're doing this, but this is something that we really wanted, at least I can speak for myself, and I think Houston and Sheena, we've been wanting to move forward for this for a year. So we can collectively come up with what our current vision and direction is, so that we can properly guide the staff in the way that we want to see things done.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to make that point is, am I saying that right, Houston, or what you've been asking for?
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, and I'm glad to be here doing part of this.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
And this will help, get with the city council, with the new members and veterans, because every group goes through the stormy norming.
Yes.
And it leads to things that we said.
Yeah,
Well, and it is,
I was a Motorola instructor for Six Sigma, so.
Yeah, I was a black belt, so yeah.
and it is very important.
It's very important.
All of us, including myself, because of where I came from and what I did, we have a tendency to get down in the weeds, but then we have to remind ourselves, no, we set policy and direction, staff implements. Okay, and sometimes we forget that, but we kind of gather our thoughts when we do that, and we remind each other, we try to get back up and above the fray, so to speak. But it's tough in a small community.
Yes. Well, and because you have citizens that are gonna come to you every day with a particular thing they want you to address. So you have to deal with the weeds. Absolutely.
Well, and then, of course, we are just so we're clear, we're a type A general law city and state, so it is a mayor council form of government. We're not required to have a city administrator. We choose to have a city administrator to manage the day-to-day activities.
Right.
But we're not required to, but we choose to by ordinance, which relieves some of the stuff off of the council.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And really what it does is it allows you guys to continue to operate
Right.
in a high role, and at the same time, you're accountable to your constituents and you do listen to their needs. But for the entire city to move forward, there needs to be a sense of direction,
Yes.
right? And things change. I mean, who knew that AI would be what it is right now, right? 5 years ago, people were going, okay, I talked to a chatbot when I have a problem online. And I thought that was pretty much it, right? But today, it's different. And you got the data centers, and so there's a whole slew of things now that are concerned to people that they weren't concerned about 5 years ago. So I'm just saying, the landscape continuously changes, and even though you set direction, and the thing about a strategic plan is, even though this is a 3-year plan, the reality is you need to visit that plan every year. I remember working with, it was the Longview Chamber of Commerce, and they had a tourism contract with the city. And they also had a contract with economic development, to do these business visits, and they built their whole plan. There was a section on tourism and economic development, and the other serving your members got a new mayor. The mayor cancels the tourism contract. And economic development got a new director, and they decided they were not gonna outsource. So all of a sudden, they had these big holes in their plan. But look what happened with COVID. People create these plans before COVID, and all of a sudden, they're like, oh my gosh, we can't do all these things. So stuff happens. You have to come back every year and do an interim, because you will need to probably update that plan a little. It's not meant to be written in stone and then let it go on autopilot. That's not what you should be doing. Okay, just some ground rules for us. Listening, I want to make sure that everybody felt like they've got a voice and be willing to understand, like Stephen Covey always says, right? Seek first to understand and to be understood. That's important, because sometimes we just want other people to see our way. Respecting differing viewpoints, gosh, today it's impossible. Everyone seems to have a different take, and sometimes you don't find that people see everything the way that you are. But just realize everyone's entitled to a different viewpoint. And what I try to find is the common ground, right? Shared values. There's always gonna be some things we don't agree on, and it doesn't make one person wrong or right. It's okay for us to see those differences. Focusing on the future, I think our tendency is to think about today, but we have to think longer term. And I think if you have a lens where you're thinking about 10 years from now, and the question is, well, where's your focus be in the next 3, 4 years? That puts you into that future state. And then thinking strategically, as we've been saying, needs to be high level, not operational. Consensus is something that we want to achieve today, right, and tomorrow. Consensus means majority agrees. But you know what? Whatever decisions you make, as a group, you have to honor the decision. That's what consensus really means. You have a process for making decisions, and once it's made, you honor it. And in public, you don't say, well, I wasn't on board with that. I was just outvoted. That just creates dissension. And so consensus really means operating as a group, finding where that common ground is, deciding how you want to go forward, and then your support. And then really important, keep Castroville first. Because you all are coming from a different lens, maybe a different stakeholder group, maybe you may have a business interest. The reality is, this is about Castroville. So we have to keep, this is why we're all here, right? Sometimes I find myself in situations consulting, you know, I'll say, well, the board president says this, and the staff person says this, and they go, well, whose side are you on? I go, you know what? I'm on the side of the organization. I'm not on this side or that side. And that's what we want. It's about being caretakers of the organization and making the choices best. So in this case, what's best for Castroville, not necessarily what's best for any one person. Okay? We've gone through a process already. We did a survey. It was kind of stop and go because originally we were going to invite people that we thought were going to be our future council members and current. And then we went away for the election, and then kind of got started again. The good news is everybody took it, which was great. The pre-work included looking at all that information, but also looking, like I said, at all the different things that the city already has in place in terms of its operating directional documents. So taking a look at that. This workshop is going to help us create this draft plan. Hopefully, it'll be 90% done, and again, high level. And then you will get a synthesized copy after today, and then hopefully vote on it and approve it. And from there, it will go on to administration. So where we are right now is the middle. It's really just deciding what those priorities are and building out that direction before we go further. So these are all things that I looked at before our workshop today, and I think Leroy provided links to the documents that I looked at, which are public knowledge. They're there on the website already. I've given you also the appendix, which has all the open-ended responses, no names attached. I always feel that it's important to make sure the voices are heard, but let's not tie comments to particular people, because then you create biases around the comments. So you have that. And then I gave you a leadership survey, lots of documents, a little bit of redundancy because they're all meant to be standalone in terms of looking at some of those key things. So we're going to walk through those. So looking at the survey itself that you guys took, these were the things I think that really are things that everyone seemed to touch on. Infrastructure readiness, right? Infrastructure is a concern because, in a lot of towns, if some infrastructure is aging, you may need some new infrastructure, but realize that you've got to have infrastructure not just for growth, but just to maintain what you currently have. Okay? Growth management was something that people brought up a lot as well. Anticipating growth, making sure that you have some guidance on how you want that growth to happen. But you're also looking at cost, and of course as you grow, you'll be serving more people. How are you going to do that? Where's the city revenue going to come from all that, right? So managing the growth needs to make sure that you're ready for it, and you've got the resources for it. Community character, that comes up in different ways. but it had to do with the heritage, right? It's a historic community, it's got some, great history that you don't wanna lose. You know, I had a chance to work with, I'll tell you, I worked with a lot of chambers. And I think it's because I have a chamber background. I worked with New Braunfels Chamber and did their strategic plan. And what was really important to them, they didn't want New Braunfels to lose their German heritage. That was really important to them. In fact, so much so that in their strategic plan, more tactical in nature, they have student ambassadors at the schools whose job is to welcome the new kids, but also share with the kids the story about New Braunfels, how it was created, talk about, you know, Worst Fest and all the different things that they have, what's great for families. But they want to also respect, they want to share with the kids a story of what makes this town so unique. I thought that was so cool. Like they want to make sure that we're going to have a lot of newcomers coming, but we don't want to lose a lot of the stuff that we have tried to preserve and educate people on. How do we make sure that that doesn't get lost, so that we kind of lose what we look like. The sense of place that you have is so important. All of you either came back or stayed because there's that sense of place, so you don't really want to lose that. So you think about that. That came up in your survey. Governance alignment. People touched on that. You know, the roles and making sure that that we're aligning with how we work together. And then people talked about public trust. And these days, there's not a lot of that. Right? We have a distrust of government, distrust of education, healthcare. So they felt that that was important. We have to make sure that we have a sense of trust, because you're doing public service work. We need to make sure that the public actually trusts you. So again, these are the things that you guys focused on in the survey. And the bullet points just say these were kind of the key things that you guys really talked about in your things. And a lot of the questions were open-ended. So that's why I said reading the appendix really helps you to understand what people said and what that really means. Okay? Public trust also, again, you guys talk about community engagement, communication, making sure that you have that two-way with the public. All right, some emerging issues. So what's maybe different, and some of it's the same. Infrastructure readiness, I think, is becoming more and more of an issue. So for you guys to think about. Community character is still there. Fiscal sustainability, and I think a lot of that comes with growth. And knowing that the city really needs to have its own financial plan in terms of how it can serve, what it can do better. And as the needs grow, how are you going to be able to respond to that? Organizational capacity came up, I think, is a new emerging issue or concern, because that's something that every organization is strapped with, right? But as the demands grow and the needs grow, then the question is, who's going to do all that, right? Okay. So, just quick discussion. Was there anything that resonated with you in terms of what came out of the survey? You go, yeah, I could see that. Or maybe echoed some of the things that you thought were important too? Was there resonance there with what you read?
I think community heritage probably needs different meanings for all of us.
Yeah.
You know, it's common theme. So I found that interesting.
Yeah.
Organizational capacity, that's an interesting one, because I find myself talking a lot right now. For, systems and processes, just to understand how staff, what policies are following and executing. So I definitely agree with organizational capacity.
Okay.
I'm waiting for echo with that with the heritage and cultural thing there. Everybody's stood behind the Alsatian, but there's more heritage in this town than just that. But you made a phrase earlier, and I'll tell you this. I believe you have to know how you got to where you're at so that you move forward. So you gotta know some of the, even though I don't wanna go backwards, you gotta know some of the history about what maybe some of the core values have been and maybe they've lost over time or shifted. For example, the city of Castroville for up until the last maybe 6-7 years has always been with the real strong rules, and if developers didn't abide by those going down the road. So they literally protected themselves by strong rules, by managing development. But the direction of the city changed, and in some respects, we enticed development to come. And it literally divided this community from what the let's protect it, let's not become Anytown USA. And in many factions, many ways, we're becoming that in some of the areas with some of the development. Now it's inevitable, you manage it, you work with that, but it's trying to balance that heritage and that historic stuff with the new development. Because I used to tell folks that, okay, if you don't keep active with these things, you're only one generation away from changing this whole community. And if you don't work on that, that happens because small town, let's just face it, when you're next to a building, people come out because they like your community. They want to be part of it. But then they slowly will transition back to what they left to change your community. And it doesn't take long before you lose your identity.
Yeah.
So trying to claw that back, I think, is important. But not just specific to Alsatian, but also to the Hispanic heritage and the other ones that made Castroville what it is.
Yeah.
On soapbox there. I believe that with everything.
Yeah, well, before I came here, I was in Boulder, Colorado, went from Denver to Boulder, and I always really liked, I think, the way the city seemed to manage, because they had a lot of growth. But they had some things that they really stuck to. They didn't want any high rises. They just said, can't build anything over 4 stories. Because they didn't want to block the Rockies. The city had a lot of land along the mountain and things that were not selling. That's for open trails, open access for everybody to enjoy nature. And they got asked so many times to sell that land, which was right going up, to the Rocky Mountains. And they said, no, that's, no. And they have great bike trails. They just said, we're really into mobility. So we want to keep those trails open for families and bikers, and they said, we want to be able to say yes and say no to people that want to come to town. They said no to Walmart, no to Costco, no to Sam's Club. They said footprint's too big. They said we want our water, our air to stay clean, and we don't want our roads to be overburdened. So they had to say no to some things, which ended up opening up just 10 miles away or whatever. But they were really insistent. They said this is a beautiful place, and our job is to maintain the environmentally beautiful place that people all come here for. People come here for vacation and say, I want to live here. But we don't want to turn into Denver with skyscrapers and just sprawl. They said we want to manage it. We want to maintain the character and identity of our town. They said we want half of our businesses to be entrepreneurs that live here, work here, and are creating jobs. And yes, we have to be open to companies that are not from here, but we don't have to say yes to everybody. And they have stuck to their guns, which is a bit hard because, they could have got more tax revenue. They could have sold more of the land, but they had to make a conscientious effort of how do we grow, what do we try to preserve, and so they could make those decisions without saying yes to sign off on everything. And I think that has been a fine balance and sometimes contentious,
Yes.
because people go, well, we want that, and they're like, well, it's gonna be in the town next door, 3 miles down the road, but within our city, it's not county, in the city, we want our city to look like this. So I think that's the hard part, is sort of making those decisions, like you talk about wanting to preserve, what does that mean?
Sure.
So those are all things that you will have to define. But I think when they talk about Castroville first and preserve heritage, maybe part of that is sort of defining, like, what is it, what are we talking about?
Well, I think, we're at that point where the growth is here. So
Yeah,
now I kind of backpedal to figure out what are we trying to preserve.
Yeah, and the state of Texas didn't make it easy for any city or town
Oh,
either,
actually.
when they turned around and said, a city or town cannot dictate what a person builds on their land, so that's why we negotiate with these developers left and right, trying to make sure it's something that'll benefit for Castroville without Castroville losing its history, its past and everything. I've lived in the oldest city in North America, in St. Augustine, Florida, and that's always been a battle, is they don't want to lose that history, but they know they gotta move to the future, and that's the way I look at it here. We preserve our history, the city's gonna grow. I mean, for the military, they purposely live out here because it's a good school system and everything, they will draw. And so that's why it's growing even more.
right,
So it's very important to preserve the history. I'm the first Newfoundlander to ever live here. So, I mean, it's bringing that history as part of the history. It's very important, but we gotta move forward too.
right, like I said, striking that balance, and you're right, growth is gonna happen regardless.
Right.
So, I think just having some things that, and of course, every time this group changes over, they have to have that conversation again, because it could change, like you said, it's
Sure.
one generation, but it could be 5 or 10 years away.
Absolutely.
All right, yes, go ahead.
I'm glad you came back, this is right in time. So one of the things that I found surprising, I thought was interesting, and is worthy of discussing in the long term, for the future of the city, is there is an emphasis, whether you want to call it the historical aspect, or whether it's buildings or culture, whatever that is, the emphasis that's being placed on that, while I think that there is value to it, I think it's also valuable to acknowledge that as much as we promote those things, and as nice as it is to have people come appreciate the rest of it, that those tourism things that we're doing aren't actually creating an economy in which the people who service those jobs can afford to live and be in Castroville. So we can have people come in and go to the hotel and go to the restaurants, but for all of the efforts that go into that tourism, how much actual stability are we creating for the city? Which is, again, in no way, shape, or form to say that these aren't important things, but I was surprised during the course of the survey to see how high of a priority it was for the city as a whole to really lean into tourism, when it seems like what we get for the actual citizens as far as economic stability, housing, businesses go, seems to be on the thin side. Which is why I wanted you to be here for the history stuff, in case you or tell me what you're
Well, I see what you're saying, I disagree. I think, the way I see what we're facing is greed. Plain and simple. It's about money, it's about developers, it's about whatever we can do to take, and the next thing you know, we look up and we look just like Lowe's. You can't tell where it stops or again, all the old stuff is gone, or they build something around it, you can't see it. And I just think, being 7 generations in the state, that it's important that we protect the history. And I'm not talking about out here, I'm talking about in here, and I think part of that survey was driven on 505 Houston as an example, where you had developers, even local developers, with the mayor at his birthday, at his house, discussing how to bulldoze half of 505 Houston, and then put 15 houses on 6 lots. That's what I'm talking
I'm not just making a comment, that said, it was a different vision. And that was, the citizenry said no, but it's, I'm not gonna sit and hammer the person because that was their vision and that's where they see the direction going. I didn't agree with it, I still don't, but I'm not gonna sit here and say, blame them on everything, because just because I don't agree, that's okay. But that's what you're talking about, when I say a generation away from change, it can change at the next election.
Absolutely.
Because the next, a majority shift.
Yeah.
Change the rules, change the ordinances and move forward. So it is important that we recognize that in everything we do and the decisions we make. We don't make spontaneous, we have to look down the road on how this affects everything moving forward.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And we gotta understand, no matter what, we're not gonna have everybody happy.
No.
You can't please everybody, but you're doing what's the majority for the best.
Well, that's the other point of that is, and I told the story because it's kind of like when it comes to a staff member or law enforcement or even code enforcement. If you don't like the rules that I'm doing my job trying to enforce, then this is the American way. Build the majority, change the rules. As long as the rules don't violate the rights of the minority, move on. That's our life. That's the way we run.
Right.
That's what government is on all levels. But we have to consider those things and you have to balance what's out there and you look at the majority of constituents and have the vision to be able to look what's best for not you, but what's best for the city as a whole.
Right. Yeah. Valerie, you're gonna make a comment?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I think, you know, because I've heard Nicole in the past talk about, in a sense where in Castroville, you're truly unable to make a living decent enough to be able to work and live in Castroville. And so I think that's what she's going to do a little bit towards and not providing enough.
Yeah, and not that I think that there was anything
No,
that's problematic.
no, but I think
But
it's
the emphasis on it.
right. So I think it's like two different approaches. It's the preservation, what that means for us and our own definitions that we can build a consensus on. And then it's the economic development portion of that. Because I 100% agree with Houston, and that brings us to the other topic with one of the findings is the public trust and the accountability, because previous administration, I do believe there was a lot of consternation, a lot of division within the community. I mean, it can go back to the public city council hearings with certain topics and stuff like that. And so now I think there is clearly a division probably within the community and distrust as well. So there's a lot to unpack with how we as an administration wants to move forward, because we do have to combat what happened a year and a half ago, and then trying to provide a vision for the next 2 to 5 years.
Right.
Well, and one question, Nicole, is why does tourism, protecting inside the river, protecting our history, our architecture, in conflict with tourism? I mean, with what you want. Why is tourism preventing you or your vision of having jobs and affordable blah, 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 right?
I was gonna say,
Blah, blah, blah.
I was gonna say you can have both, right?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
have,
no,
yeah.
and I don't disagree with that at all. That again, I'm just kind of going back to the emphasis that it was one of the things, because the question that was asked was what was interesting to you. And that was an interesting thing to me, that from the results of the survey, the emphasis on tourism specifically related to the historic buildings. Like, on a side note, I thought it was also interesting that the tourism did not include the things that happen in the park, which is the significant financial
As they
draw that
should.
happens there, right? But just the response in there, and with the follow-up question being, not in any way to diminish any of the historical preservation, conservation, and the expansion of that, right? But to acknowledge, as far as living and working in Bashville and in the area, that specifically doesn't, it's not an industry in which it's putting food on the table for
It's not the
anyone
time.
or housing. Yes, I get
It's
that,
not
but
his
it does,
job.
but it does come up, but it was like, what's interesting, and to me, that was something that was
But it's
interesting.
not
to bring up.
exclusive of.
Yeah.
You can do what you want and not have to look those old buildings in Fort
Right.
Castro.
I do not disagree.
And when it comes to economic development, is it the city's role, or do you have a separate organization that does economic development?
That's an interesting question. Yes and yes, yes. The city, against the advice of the administration, the council, previous council created an economic development corporation. It was actually staff said nothing against it, but the leadership went ahead with it. Because state law allowed that to be done. But what the underlying goal was for the corporation to take all the city properties and develop it into the way that they see they want to develop it. Without any input from the members of the public. So this city council, that I can say the city council last year shut that down and closed that economic development foundation and began attempts to renegotiate economic development activities with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
We have not reached a full agreement,
Okay.
but we're working through that to help the Chamber of Commerce be the lead role in economic development activities and tourism activities for the city of Belleville.
And that's normal. I think like 40% of chambers in the US are the primary EPO.
Yes,
But there's 60% are not. They're either done by the city or the county or a private organization, and who have, investors, and who are, making decisions. I think it's important though that whatever the city's master plan is, that has to be important too. Like you can't go off and do something in a void, you have to sort of look at
I
the
think what is important,
long-term
when we
plan.
talk about economic development in the community, there's other organizations here, there's the Castro Area Economic Development.
Okay,
There is the Golden Eden, which is county-wide economic development. And then we have our chamber.
got it.
So and then of course, so we have a lot of opportunities to work with organizations that are
Yes.
mission driven towards it. May not be meeting what our goals and objectives are,
Right.
but that's something that we want to have a hand in helping guide those. But yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, and the reason I bring that up is because usually when you have people who are looking at economic development as a plan, there's a lot that goes into looking at it, because you kind of determine what those core industries are going to be. And tourism, hospitality may be one of them, but there's a good chance that there are others. Whether it's manufacturing or retail, or healthcare. And then you start to try to recruit companies who can help build those industries. And a lot of that is where some of your good paying jobs will come from. And you can still support tourism, but tourism's not always a primary driver, because you need other types of jobs as well in the community. So that there's kind of jobs for everyone, right? From you know, I like to work with the Abilene Chamber, and I remember they used to have a hard time just getting doctors and other people to move there, because they're like, well, no, my family's probably not gonna wanna live here. And so they had to really think about, like, how do we start to attract good industries and good talent, but at the same time, let's make sure that we're not going to replace our current talent and our residents, and so they have to keep all of that in mind. So usually it's a very complex.
When you look at the
Picture.
city of Castro as far as, industry wise, primarily, community. Tourism is probably in, except for local retails, things like that, because it's been, I'm not saying the industry wouldn't be welcome here, but it would depend on what it is, what they have to offer, things like that.
Right.
Because historically, the city has not entertained that because of the proximity of the community to San Antonio. As Sheena Radio, there's a, oh my goodness, there's probably a large percentage of people that commute, and they choose to do that.
Right.
Because this is
See,
home,
right.
and that's work.
Right, you have a bedroom community,
But-
people
but-
live here,
Right.
and then they work in San Antonio.
So it turns around with other folks that either don't know that, they, will generally work within the retail arena or things like that. And I understand what Nicole is making, there's not necessarily here the high paying jobs that you would have to commute to get, and I understand it.
Right.
And I'm not saying that couldn't happen, I'm just saying it would be something, in my opinion, very selective for the city to do.
Exactly.
I mean, a major employer that we have in the area, you know, we've got school districts.
Sure.
Right, so it's a major employer in the area, so that's a source of, I broadly think of that as being a part of the industry.
Yes, ma'am.
So we've got education that's going on out here, there is farming. I don't know what the numbers are on it, but I suspect that that's kind of a diminishing return situation. That's getting more and more difficult.
But wait, why would you think, because of pressure?
I think just a part of the growth that's coming out.
More lands being,
And then
we're
also
losing,
just-
we're losing our farmers.
Yeah,
I know that.
so, and then I think it's further complicated by, you know, issues of your right to repair, you know, things like that. You've got equipment, whether or not you can manage it yourself.
It's cost.
Yeah, so it's,
That's why you
yes.
don't-
Well, and then a lot of the younger generation doesn't wanna continue being farmers,
Right.
so with the families knowing this, they're selling the land.
So,
Exactly.
but, so, you know, I look at education, I think of the medical and legal services that we have in the area. There's some farming goes in there, certainly there's some retail, there are certain services, kind of everyday services that are in the area. So when I talk about industry, I'm not specifically talking about like, hey, I think that we're gonna come and do manufacturing in the area, we should have that goal.
Sure.
More along the lines of when I think of an economic philosophy that can be developed, right?
Sure.
And then you can build that into a strategy.
Right.
Then that's going to need to have direction from us that comes from a place of we want to see more sustainability in people who can work here
Right.
and afford to live here,
Yeah.
such that and I know that just about everybody that I know commutes.
Right.
It was a personal choice that I made.
Right.
I decided that if I was going to leave my business there and I was gonna come back home and try to build it, that the day that my business could not sustain me living in Castroville is the day that I had failed and it was time to go elsewhere.
Sure.
Right.
And to that extent, I understand that lots of people are comfortable with commuting, that's fine. But as population expands, particularly in this direction, that situation is going to get worse and worse.
Right.
And without an economic kind of vision for what we want in this area, then I think this is just going to become more and more
Defense.
isolated.
Yeah, it's a big defense rather than.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't wanna go off track
Yeah.
here, but I was gonna say that, you know, there are services that you can contract who will look, even if you're a veteran community to a major metropolitan area, they can assess what you currently have and where the gaps are. so that for people to live here and not have to run back to the city because there's no dry cleaner or there's no dentist or, whatever it is that could help you make decisions on the types of things that you should definitely have in your community so that it's somewhat sustainable and you don't have to drive a distance necessarily to get it. But those are all things that could come with economic development. And I think as you think about when we get into these different priority areas, there may be some things that you consider as broad strategies that would help you when you're making decisions going forward. But before we take our break at 2:45, we wanted to just kind of go into governance and look at the planning principles, and then from there, we're gonna get into the priorities. And at least see if we can come to an agreement on what those priorities should be. So obviously, governance matters, right, and all of you are in a governance role. So if you think about that, you have to have alignment, because if you don't, then there's confusion, right? Whose job is it? What's our job versus what's the mayor's job? What's the city administrator's job? And really, we're not trying to create duplication of those jobs, but understanding the different roles and responsibilities and understanding that. But we just want to make sure that there's that sense of alignment. And it's clear. And it's also probably good if, the general public at large sort of understands too what is the difference? What's between the city administrator and the mayor versus city council and what do they do? So this is just broad level, but for city council, it's about policy and strategic direction, right? That's the role for all of you here in establishing what those key priorities are, and also evaluating the results of the city. It's also kind of creating a sense of accountability, right? Is the city executing on things that you folks felt were important on a higher level? But also just making sure that you pay attention to the budget, you pay attention to the results, right? So governance, if you think about it, is probably also another, governance is managing direction, but it's also providing oversight. So that's the role that you play. And for the mayor, for his leadership, he wants to make sure that he's the facilitator, right, the go-between the city administration and the city council. So the door open goes for the thing. So he's an elected official. His job really is to help kind of create consensus. Okay, so kind of being that facilitator, making sure that everyone's heard, where's the common ground at, and being able to pull that together. He represents the community, obviously, overall, for Castroville. And his job is to support all of you to make sure that there is some effectiveness in how the city is governed.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit, it's kind of like when
Yeah.
I was running for mayor, that people ask me, why mayor, why not a councilman?
Yeah.
I said, well, I respect the fact that Councilmember doesn't vote, and the mayor does not vote in the exception time, but the mayor sets the tone, guides the council, guides the direction, drives the bus, so to speak.
Right.
And I just want to drive the bus for a while.
Right, right.
And that's the short version of it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Kind of like what you just said.
Yeah, it's really supporting them, okay?
You can take that for what it is, but I'm a motivation person with that.
He's the bus driver.
He's a boss.
The bossy bus driver.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and if you think about it too, you got you have a mayor who has a full-time job. He's out in the community. He's listening to constituents. He's also listening to everything that happens here. But really being the conduit between administration and governance. It's almost like you guys are like the board of directors, and then you've got city staff, right? And he is sort of the intermediary between these two bodies, okay? And the city administrator, his job is to implement the direction. So given whatever the high level is, whether it's Leroy or someone else in that position, it's how do I then create an operational plan that supports what you guys said were important? Because they still have to run all of these different things, right? So he's got to create more of the operational plan, work with the different departments to make sure that they're in alignment as well, but more on the execution side. You guys are planning direction, city administration is create the operational plan, execute on that plan. And then your job is to evaluate the results, okay, to see how they're doing. Does that make sense? Just, you know, different roles for the different entities. Okay. These are the draft planning principles. You have a, it's still a one-page document, but you do have, there's a sentence under each one. You know, it's just like when you talk about core values, and you may have a sentence or a few words, but the question is, what does that mean, right? So I have proposed 10 planning principles. I'm not saying you should keep all of these. I just want to know from you in terms of which ones do you think are most important? Do you think that they should change? Do you need all of them? But really think about it. This is how you guys will work together. Think about, like I said, those rules of engagement. So I have govern through policy and leadership. These are not necessarily in priority order. But we talk about, like, what does that mean? We'll focus on establishing vision, priorities, policy direction, empowering staff to manage operations, and their job really is to implement your decisions effectively. That's what that means. Govern through policy and leadership. 2, lead with accountability, transparency, and integrity, and this kind of goes to the whole public, what's kind of related to the public trust, a little bit different. So maybe you have to look at this one, the public trust, and decide if you need both of these or not. Make decisions openly, communicate honestly, and hold yourselves accountable. And 3, strengthen collaboration, mutual respect. And this is really making sure that you are trying to create good relationships among all the elected officials, staff, community partners, residents, active listening, shared problem solving. So in other words, you're fostering collaboration, not trying to sort of create dissension amongst all of these different stakeholders. 4, think long term. We talked about this, recognizing today's choices right shape Castroville for the future. So we want to make sure that we're recognizing every decision we make. We think about this in terms of longer term impact. 5, honor Castroville's heritage while preparing for the future. This says preserve qualities, history, and character that make Castroville unique, while thoughtfully preparing for future growth and change. What's both, right? But we don't want to lose what we value about Castroville's heritage. Guide growth intentionally. Number 6, making sure that that growth aligns with city's vision, infrastructure capacity, financial resources, and priorities. So it's not just growth for growth's sake, but making sure, you know, we understand how that's going to work with everything else. 7, invest responsibly in infrastructure and community assets. So it's prioritizing investments, essential services, obviously that always has to be at the top of your list. Future needs and quality of life. 8, support financial sustainability so that you always consider financial impacts on your decisions. And it really is a balance between current needs and long-term fiscal stewardship. 9, public trust through communication and engagement, and this really just talks really about, and I think you guys are trying to do that by live streaming that today. You know, we want to make sure that we're modeling, you know, good communication, and but also getting that two-way engagement, right? So the door is open, where it's not just a one-way that you're really putting forward. And 10, focus on implementation and results. So you're prioritizing actions, measuring progress, and turning plans into meaningful outcomes. I thought maybe I would just let you maybe talk at your table, maybe for about 10 minutes or so, just kind of looking at this and say, just look at this list. I'll give you more time if you need to. If you were going to come up with just a handful of principles that you say, if we looked at this and it was posted, we would make sure that this is what we were following as we work together. Do you want all 10 of these? Do you like 5 the best? I don't know. Maybe you might even maybe rank. Maybe you select your top 5. You know, so we can see whether or not you need all of these. And if you want to change any of the verbiage, you can. But I'd like for us to decide today what those principles are so that we can start moving up to them. Okay, so So it'll just give you 15 minutes, okay, I'll check in with you about 25 after. Just say, okay, what are your thoughts on it?
Don't listen to us.
Thursday, back.
Okay. I would say, and that's
Till we get to-
okay, so truly discovered. I
Cliches,
Not-
you got to go.
It-
No, I'm not following.
it's getting close to my heart, possibly. But I do think that we should support their guests.
Your students, you should-
But I do think there makes the most sense, the way that it should be set policy and then. I mean, this more along the lines. And informing us. Yeah,
But in
And I would say, let's just trust the staff.
No, the empowering shows for the military and everything, going on right here for mission vision and all that. Empowering is not just that leadership, it's empowering all the way down to forward and step to do the job. And that's why the term is used often, no matter what company you're at, is that you want to empower everybody, not just.
Well, okay, so but on a principal level, what I'm doing, I'm saying, I'm empowering you. What I'm saying is, you don't have a place. That is, I have a fundamental disagreement with looking at someone and saying, I give you this power, you have permission to. And to me, if you are genuinely being respectful of someone as a valued human being, has their own thoughts and own ideas, is making you trust that you have an institution in which if someone has a problem, then they don't need permission to come and tell you. They're not coming to tell you because that door's already open. And that's fine, but I will say also from a social work perspective, this is why it's also fallen out of favor. We should talk about people who have survived and people who have on the medical, all the massive stuff, social work. So the, the 12 for those reasons.
Not in every group, it has. You're looking at it on the social worker side, but everywhere else, business, I can tell you that the government, the military, my child is in the military right now, and he has to tell his sailors, I'm empowering you to do this. Because a lot of the new generation right now, they don't wanna do anything, but if you turn around and say, I'm empowering you to take care of X, Y, and Z, I'm giving you that role of responsibility. No, not
This is my expectation.
not everything is set in a job description. It really isn't. I'm empowering you to make the right decision to go and do your job by the standards and laws that govern your job. That is the leader saying, hey, I'm gonna entrust you to do the right thing without you looking over your shoulder. That's what empowering is to me. But that empowering also means that if you screw up and you don't accept, your screw up and be accountable for it, then I've not empowered you very well. And that means I need to pull you back where you're not fully qualified to do your job. Then I just.
Oh, sorry, looking at the stars instead of, enabling, molding, trusting, authorizing,
So.
delegating. They're all the same.
Correct.
So it needs
This
to
is where it's.
Yeah, and it's a huge word, I mean, it's used all over the world, no matter what country you're in. So,
like I said, you like trusting.
Like my son, he's stationed in Japan right now, and the Japanese are big on, I'm just telling you. But that's all part of this though, we're storming on supporting because, this is, you know, you're reading like, as long as we can consensus.
Yeah.
And we want to.
That's it, if there's another word you like better, sometimes you like trusting. You know, it says here authorizing is giving official commercial licensing. Delegating.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the overall, the most important thing is an agreement that, yes, governance, council, how we want to govern is related to
That's not.
trade policy and
Yeah.
things.
My first.
Yeah, yeah.
It's underneath,
yeah.
Yeah.
Running underneath it.
It's a management, yeah, like I said, if you wanted to have a sentence that's like, what do you mean by that?
I believe is given us.
Equip, trusting, trusting staff, and you are trusting, right, to manage the, your running thing.
Give us a whole lot of.
But whatever word you want to use there, is that it's just a,
It's starting out
Okay.
Take out this.
yeah, it's one of those. It'd be interesting for you guys to kind of decide, like,
Well,
top line.
okay, but yes, you're right.
Then the question is, do you need to?
You're over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna see it.
I see
It's very matter of
I
fact.
do 5 and 6, just almost can't do. Underneath that, it was heritage, well, heritage for the exercise. And at the same time, that license guiding growth potential. Because that is including cash flow.
And sometimes extended.
We have to guide growth. Where's the better one? City.
It's a.
Do you think it's a
Yeah.
want to, although each of the sentences that we read, one of the states character of vision, structure.
Yeah, but we still have to have the resources to maintain our resources.
Yeah, I understand.
We were just discussing that at the last city council meeting yesterday about, you know, well, yesterday was budget stuff for taking care of our historic buildings.
Yeah.
It's in the infrastructure, historic buildings. Yeah, exactly. That's why I saw that, those two.
You could put them together, you know, and that it's a balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's your turn, man.
Agree.
Pick one, pick one.
Oh, no,
That one or this one?
Yes, yes.
Well, number 7 should be number 1.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Well, they're gonna get the nine, like, I think if we can, so let's say that let's say we have educate order matters, because if you post this anywhere, people will automatically think that Tom Jennifer just did it.
Track that.
Yeah, yeah, so it does matter.
And then the last one, is focus on.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's good, you can have the five.
I feel like
I'll
it's
call
also
some more,
more
yeah.
readers.
So, I think it's good for her.
Well, they're all
Yes.
important.
They're all important.
You're on it, little.
What is
They're
the,
all in front.
the
I
goal,
can have something.
what is, of course, obviously.
Really?
Goal,
We're full.
Right.
Okay.
And I think it's saying that
She
there are
does?
several ways
Because,
to
well,
do it through these words.
Yes. I mean, it's one of those things that, to be perfectly frank, I know some people, I would just say, not have access to them.
Right.
Because sometimes they, someone next to it, and it's nice, and it's like, you don't want to be better off not being nice at all.
Right.
It's
But yeah, last time.
yeah.
She ran over somebody with her lawnmower?
Well,
No,
it's
she-
fiduciary responsibility.
Yesterday when I was down here for the meeting, there was a guy on the drive lawnmower, 2 up the street.
One is the city manager, city administrator, that's the way. And the other one is the auditor. The other
Well,
is
I would
the
say
report for the
that,
general fund.
and the things that,
That's it.
to put up there
So-
is to,
It's your responsibility to ensure that.
but I don't think like every
These are
year,
that
like,
property.
it is something that's
Such
such
policies,
a
ordinances, right,
Yes.
that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, but I
Right,
think
so
that's
accountability,
Is a major
and
issue.
that's on my side of this.
Because other people talk about it, because you can't do that.
And so, while the strategic stuff, the technical stuff, that change, right, over the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years. Basically,
There's
so
a lot
we're not looking at something.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I
In
think
10 years, this is gonna get over.
Yeah, sure.
So, the application,
Well,
just
that's
the
okay. Well,
identification,
that's okay too.
and what we're doing this year is not the stuff.
It needs to fall.
So that we're agreeing on the stuff that's to solve a problem that happened 2 days ago, it's probably gonna burn out.
Both the leadership, both the leadership.
That would be nice to have
Yes.
And so
inside
that
this
they're very much in tune to what the
Isn't it,
leadership
maybe
wants
you
to.
can write that in
Yes.
school policy?
I agree.
So,
Very
I'm
true.
very fortunate that
I think
Yeah.
social media works, but the most meaningful principles, because it's almost like they come back together,
Yes.
and say, are we doing this, are we doing this, are we doing this, and that's it, everything else is like, I stand up, but there's not as much, social media.
It's just.
Which, to your point, I mean, this, we need city person to communicate back via social media. And I mean, not spin it, not any of that crap. Just like.
Yes.
And I think our issue
Yeah.
is also on
We're
the council
building
side.
this at this point.
And
Moving
we
it
have some
started.
stuff
One of
that
the things you
I
gotta-
inherently just feel need to.
So it's very fresh.
It's not the field that I feel responsible for, but I think just a certain willingness on our council, for leadership, to say like, hey, you're talking a whole bunch of mess, and your facts are just wrong, and with clarity, without being rude to everyone, but with clarity, just saying,
Well, and I think especially because.
these are the minutes from the meeting previous, you can come to me with that trans, you can come to me to do this, but, I'm not gonna, but it's not okay for you to continue to yell about this, like, I
So,
this is what
Yeah.
we had training from the lawyers regarding
Even
from
from
social media.
Right.
Yeah.
External.
Right.
There.
Council,
We are almost our
So
soul
this
for
is,
you.
yeah.
You gotta be able to
It's up a lot.
exact this one too, because it's not.
Sometimes to me, and they say,
And I mean, this is
well,
a true sense, I would perform
You
my
guys
sword
pass
to you,
this
but I
policy.
would be a
Are you
bush
telling me
knight.
that our lawyers are saying that I would, that you want to present?
I like that.
Oh,
I don't know if you can get it down to your.
That kind of
stuff, and we're not in the same,
Well,
and
you're-
then we'll be able to compare, and hopefully say,
That's just like a good practice, you learn, you know, it's something.
Yeah, I never go.
yeah, but let's see, if you guys get it down to like 5.
I'm fine.
Yes, I think we get some good stuff going on. Okay. Alright. It's gonna try to get circled down.
We've gotta prioritize, we've got a combo, and then we've got, the tie-in from long-term with our policy. So,
Okay. But no, when you're
Stab with
They can
pencil.
write the procedure.
No, when you're talking to them in person, they're,
That's
oh yeah,
my
I do it all the time.
counsel. This part, so to ensure, it's only to ensure. the procedure goes through the policy.
That I focus myself on this. You sit there.
Does it sound familiar?
I mean, I know, I mean. And then for years, we start out.
Right. I agree with that.
I don't want to do all that. Oh, I don't want to do
And
that.
stop.
No, Me?
Yeah.
Okay, they're there already.
My husband.
Okay.
Solid, Becca.
Yeah,
Okay,
solid,
fine.
yes.
Philip,
Okay,
Yes.
and
This is my spokesperson.
okay, no, that's good.
I am told that I asked a lot of questions by staff already, so that's my.
That's a good thing.
That is.
That's the way you learn.
Yeah.
Oh, I got
Oh,
kicked
okay.
out every time
I
my
thought-
face
I was thinking-
expressed
I
what I
was
was
thinking-
thinking, I would never be allowed in any building.
I'm not saying I know everything. Generally, when I ask a question, I'm looking for an answer. So I have a general idea of what I'm looking
Absolutely.
for. So
No, she lived down the street from me.
whatever you answer, it's, hey, listen, another question, because I want to get to the root of it. Yeah, I say, okay, that's the answer's changed as you progress.
It does.
But that's, okay, fine, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's the nature of it,
Yeah,
right?
and like in the Six Sigma world, they always, they call it 5 lines. Because you ask 5 questions, away, then you really the onion.
Yes.
Then you find out
Studies
how
are
to
all-
really do something.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it's
I
right
think
in her
that's,
house.
okay, first you said
Well,
that,
that's less
then it
true.
comes down to.
And
Well, we've always done it that way.
Yes.
I got the.
Oh, so actually she is no.
That's exactly right.
But-
So, and it happens, so these, and in some respects,
Oh, yeah.
people that are not, we have asked those multiple things, they freeze up or they have a problem. But all you're trying to do
And
is
so,
Well, not only that, because sometimes that curiosity reveals important information.
Yes.
That could be changed.
It
Does it matter?
Yes, no, I think I
Yeah.
we haven't done the training.
and I would be outside
Yes.
working in the dirt, you know, that's right.
Okay, all right, so let's come back. All right.
Report.
Okay, all right, so let's start over here. So I know we were trying to ask each group to see if we could kind of get to our top 5. It'd be interesting to see if there's any similarities. So who's gonna speak here for this group?
You wanna talk about?
Okay, Sheena.
So we got, governance through policy and leadership.
Okay, go on, I'm gonna write down. Okay, so you said governance.
That's what
But this, yeah, not necessarily, if we were gonna go order wise,
No, no.
Okay.
We don't have to prioritize right now.
okay.
Although we realized, like I said, it was gonna be public facing,
We'll just
order
put start
will
as-
matter,
when we get there.
because it almost
Sure.
appears like it's in, people think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is actually priority.
Yeah.
So, but we're not talking about that right now. Okay, so you said governance through policy.
And leadership,
Okay.
think long-term.
Oh, that's, okay. All right, and then you said think long-term. Okay,
Invest responsibly in infrastructure and community assets.
okay, so invest responsibly.
That would get to start.
Invest responsibly, tell me the rest of that.
In infrastructure and community assets.
Infrastructure and community assets.
And we got build. Build,
This was a combo, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're
the,
gonna come
5 and
back to
6
six.
is, I'm doing them last.
Oh.
Okay, so build public trust
Okay,
through communication.
okay, hold on.
Yep.
Through communication,
And engagement.
okay,
And the last one is a combo.
okay,
We got honor Castroville's heritage
okay,
while guiding growth intentionally.
while guiding growth intentionally. Okay. That it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we chose govern through policy, leadership, and then we combine 1 and 2, so accountability.
Okay, so you're adding,
I
adding the word accountability.
Accountability.
Leadership through
So it's-
accountability, transparency, and integrity.
Oh, no.
Oh. Okay, that's different,
I know that, but I mean, it's a combination of one and two.
which is, okay,
They just
so.
get all the adjectives.
So we chose govern through policy, leadership, and accountability. That would be the title of that principle.
Okay,
Yes. That's right. That's our combo.
okay, that's your combo,
And
okay.
then we chose invest responsibly in infrastructure and community assets.
You did pick that one too,
Yes.
okay, so we got two here,
Okay.
and we really have two here, okay,
Support financial sustainability.
okay,
That's being fiscally responsible.
okay, so support financial sustainability, okay,
Build public trust through communication and engagement with a focus on internal and external.
okay, so you were saying build public trust through communication and engagement,
Internal and external.
You're looking at the internal, external customers.
Yeah.
Internal to the staff, external to public.
I'm trying to think,
The whole thing, the whole
that to
package.
build public trust through communication and engagement internally and external?
Yes, that could be part of the definition itself, so I mean, that's
Okay.
a big part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whole cash.
You're building the trust in
Okay, but it sounds like there was an agreement that you guys like that one as well, okay.
And then, the last one we chose is focus on the implementation and results.
Okay. Focus on implementation and results.
We also thought that that also kind of ties in or balances out number one, because we have accountability, policy, leadership, accountability.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. You
Okay.
guys have like eight.
So, okay, so it sounds like you guys were in agreement on three of them. The governance through policy and leadership, but they added accountability. And this one here, you guys all both liked it the way it was. This one here, you liked it too, you were just saying that that also goes internal and external, which we could put in the definition. And then, so that's the agreement, and then this group had to honor Castroville's heritage while guiding growth intentionally. That you guys did not pick as your,
That was our,
That was
Yes.
right, because these were two separate ones, the guiding growth
Yeah.
intentionally and then the, honoring Castroville, so you combine those, and then they had two different ones, which is the financial sustainability and focus on implementation and results.
Part of, just so I can explain something, part of, what we have, again, I'm back to what our responsibilities are in the local government code is the governance, is the fiscal accountability,
Right.
and those are spelled out in local government code as our responsibilities.
As being something that the council is
Responsible for those items, and then you coach can add everything else, but the last one is measurable results
Okay,
on everything.
I think the way that I
That's why
see,
we just move forward with it.
I think the way that I see honor Cashville's heritage while guiding growth intentionally. To me, that almost seems like it's part of a vision statement or a mission statement and not so much an actual principle.
Hmm.
And to me, growth is here. There's not much growth coming other than making commercial, but it's here. Land's bought, you know. So to think long term, as a guiding principle, I wouldn't. My opinion is I don't think I would choose guiding.
Right, the issues with growth, and yes, a lot of it's here, but it's managing it to the betterment of the city and not to the betterment of the developer. And there has been a shift. In other words, and I go back 10 years ago when we built a wastewater plant that we still don't utilize. We developed if we build it, they will come mentality. Instead of in the past, we don't build it, you pay for it, you build it. So it's trying to get back
right,
to shifting the cost. But those are more policy directions, and things like that.
Yeah.
Forward.
okay. So, like I said, what we're hearing over here is, maybe And I'm not
I'm
saying,
not agreeing with you.
and I'm not saying to remove it, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
no.
that, you know, it sounds like what you're saying is that this might shift a little bit, depending, how you wanna phrase this. Because what I'm hearing you say is that growth is coming, it doesn't, you know, you can't stop it.
Right,
But what you maybe can do, like you said, is something about manage.
managing,
Well, I heard two things. Manage growth, which I think is part of this. But the other thing I heard, which is not embedded in either of these combined statements, was something about looking at it from the lens.
shifts the cost of development to the development, not to the.
Right. It's something about, it's really about making sure that how it benefits Castroville
Right.
citizens.
I understand,
Rather than necessarily, like I said, for a developer or somebody who's actually
right,
not gonna be here.
Also kind of reminds me of the example that you used earlier of the Colorado town in which they were just like, we have decided
right,
we're not going to sell this, we're not going to, you know,
Right.
someone could come to Castroville and say, we're gonna give you $10 million for your roads, but we're gonna burn down the Steinbach house in exchange. They collectively be like, well, then I guess we're gonna pass.
well, people
Like
have
that
asked
kind
me,
of
for example,
decision in advance.
first you're against development, no, I'm not against development, but I believe we should do a better job managing the development.
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering, just based on what you said, and I know we've got an intention here about
Sure,
some of that preservation, but also intentional growth. Even though we may not be able to prevent all the growth because some of it's already been
Right.
bought, spoken for, if you will.
Right.
So we can't sort of renege on that. So I'm wondering, is there a way to shift this so that it's a little bit of what we all say you want, you know?
it's an important thing to protect the heritage and do that, and it is extremely important. But when you limit it down to 4 or 5 different things, it kind of just.
Right.
It's not that it's up there, it's just that you look at it different.
I don't see it as a guiding principle, I see it as a framework to our mission as a city is to honor Castroville's.
And we're gonna get to mission and vision.
Right, so I don't know if it's necessarily a principle, why,
Okay.
could it be
Oh, it's a
a
principle.
mission statement?
Well, I guess if you think about it, like we're gonna focus on, we're gonna look at mission and vision
Yes.
because we wanna achieve both of those. And I think the planning principles of how you all work together to make those a reality is saying, what are some things that we as a group, in terms of how we make decisions, is going to help make that mission and vision a reality?
Well, and also too, I mean, not for nothing, but I think you suggested that the goal number of things for us to agree on, not to be so small, so that it become tunnel vision, but not so large.
Yeah.
As to be unwieldy. And what, we've got like four that we agree on? That
Well-
pretty much we're in
well-
the same house?
Well,
Yeah.
We're building the same
Well,
house?
well, 3 were, I think, are pretty much identical. Okay, so these are, yes, you guys all saw it, said it was super important, it was in your top 5. These are the ones that you come up with that are not, we're not in agreement. Okay, and I'm not, they're all good, they're just there for different reasons. This one here, because we said, it is your job to have the financial oversight and to make sure that the city has, you know, enough money, it's sustainable, because you're providing oversight for that. This one here is saying, I guess if you're gonna do something, make sure you have if you actually go through with it, and you have some results. Okay, similar to this, but a little bit different. Okay, and then this one here is totally different, because it is about growth, but it's also keeping in mind that there are some aspects that you want to balance with that growth. But the other thing I'm also hearing you say is that it needs to benefit the residents, not necessarily people who paid for the development or the growth or whatever. So that there's a quality of life, or there's,
Yes.
or like you said, it's not all paid by taxes for your citizens. So in other words, it needs to benefit the residents, and it needs to provide
These
some.
provide a benefit and not a financial burden on the
Right.
resident.
And something that I'm noticing now, I thought that we were in agreement on, but maybe we are not. When we're looking at these, the planning principles, we really have not identified like what our meaningful timeline is. If we just read the things that we agreed on, then yeah, we can make a policy, and if we get results 2 weeks later, then should we really be patting ourselves on the back? Like, was that the big long-term vision that we were going for? Because the way that we've got these principles structured right now, we really haven't said, I mean, if we don't agree on guiding growth with, some intentionality, if we don't agree on, long-term thinking, and if we've got a focus on seeing results, the implication in there is that we'll be around to see the results. When, to my mind, the results of the infrastructure, the capital improvement plans, and all of it, yeah, so like, someone would see it,
You'll be here.
but we wouldn't be here necessarily to see it.
But you can turn around and think long-term and tie that into
this.
into that,
You're gonna
into
be-
any of them,
You're gonna be thinking long-term on any of these.
on any of them, exactly.
Yeah, so it doesn't need
you
to
can-
be. a
Right, you can
specific-
jump that one into investment into infrastructure, into the support financial sustainability, focus on implementation and results. Yeah, that's all part of long-term.
It's no different than adding you cannot govern and set policy and have leadership without
Without long-term.
accountability.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That
right.
should have been
Yeah.
one.
And probably depending on what the underlying sentence is, this could incorporate this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna think responsibly,
It's a community asset.
right, but you also have to realize, like, how does the community benefit from this?
You can think long-term, invest responsibly, and the honor Castro bill, you can link those all in together, because that's all part of your long-term. Infrastructure, I mean, you gotta have a plan and everything, to build public, the honor Castro bill heritage, growth, that's long-term.
Yeah,
Because we have a historic district.
Yeah.
We have an identified historic district. So roughly, it could be considered a community asset.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so in that, it has its guidelines, it has so that's incorporated already.
I think it is helpful though to unpack the phrasing that we use and like what that means.
Yes.
Because unless you had just gone through and articulated that,
Yeah.
I would not look at community asset and think to myself, oh yes, that does absolutely include the
Well,
historic
that's roughly,
district,
but yeah, it could.
right?
Okay.
So, but I think it's the unpacking of it that's helpful. So I
Right,
put it
but
back
I think
together.
at the same time,
Different
what I can do though is, I can just maybe think about how do we somehow fold this into that, right? So that there's aspects of this that really come into, or this one,
I would remove think long term.
because you think that it's all gonna show up.
Yes,
Yeah,
Everywhere
it's
else.
part
Oh,
yeah.
of the process.
yeah,
Okay.
that's already built in.
Okay, so we're gonna keep this one, and think about, and what I can do is work on the underlying phrase to see how does this fit in. So that gives us 3 here. What about, so we said that we think that this is gonna show up in here. What about these other 2?
I think it's a part of our job description, then I don't know. I mean, unless it's possible to take that out, or it would be, that would ever go away.
Okay.
I think, to me, it's almost kind of
It's like
like,
it's a given.
it's stating the obvious.
It's a given.
It's literally part of the job.
So,
Okay.
so support financially is part of policy and leadership.
Yeah, that's what they were,
Yeah,
they just said.
It's part of.
So support financial sustainability is part of policy and leadership.
If you fail in the financial part, you will
And implementation and results is also part of policy and leadership. Because that's how we measure ourselves on our policies and our leadership is by the metrics.
Okay, so what if we do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, cause
Well,
I get it, cause it's implementation and results of us as a staff, but it's also departments too.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, so I wanna make sure that's clear, maybe it's
Yeah.
clear in the description once it's all drafted out.
right,
Yeah.
like you said, this,
Sorry, Brian.
the accountability, like you
well,
said,
the council is ultimately accountable for everything, but the council has accountability and therefore to hold their staff
Correct.
right,
accountable.
right, and that's why I put council and
On a
staff.
different level,
Okay.
different level.
Okay, so what if we do this, I know we've got,
That's correct.
we've got all these arrows, but what if I come back to you tomorrow and say, okay, we're gonna have these three, right? 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna see how these aspects of this show up in here and in here, this part here.
Yes.
And come back to you with some new phrases.
Yes.
And if those sound like they're still keeping the intention of what you liked about those other ones, but that means we got it down to 3.
Good job.
Woo-hoo. No, for you guys. You guys did the hard work.
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we do that? We're gonna take a break, we're gonna come back at 3, we're gonna look at mission, vision, and then, agree on the key priority areas.
Okay.
No,
I wanna remind everybody that that recording is still on. I don't know how, okay, I'm gonna ask you because before we have that, I wanna make sure that he pauses that before we have any conversations, because we're still in a
he was stationed in Cusco, and now he's not at Sassaville.
Yeah, but you're right, it is great culture.
Oh, yeah.
People are just so alike.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to, like I said, I will work on this, give you back a new version tomorrow.
Yes, we are, we have to write it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So that way we'll be able to, have a clean copy and make sure that it fits your needs. Okay, so, on to mission vision. Okay, this is the current mission and vision. And like I said, in the survey, it didn't sound like it was exactly,
I could be wrong, I think it, when they were like, who answered the survey results, and there was like, there was one upcoming and current city council
what,
member
and the upcoming.
who like looked at one question and then was out.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was me, because that would have been my response to reading those words and immediately saying to myself, this doesn't tell me anything.
Right, well, and,
Doesn't tell me
and truthfully, the upcoming became the current.
Yeah.
It's just the timing of when you took the survey, right? So, when we think about it, a mission is the purpose, right? It's why do you exist? What's your purpose? The vision says, if you've done your purpose well, what is the end state? So sometimes a vision statement is said to create or to be able to describe the envisioned future, okay? So this is the future, and your mission is to make that vision a reality, okay? But they're different, and I think that, just looking at these,
I was against both all the way.
yeah, were you? Yeah, why? What? And why is that? What were you thinking?
Since your administration.
Totally, actually, it would be your fault.
No, I was the person that was against it.
Against what?
Against it, I'm sorry, when they were doing preserve Castroville's rich culture, it was all about the architecture. And it's like, no, that's not what a mission is, that's not what a vision is, but I was overruled, and it's like, no.
Who did that?
Yes.
Oh, we're gonna let that go.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna move on from the past.
I totally concur with, which, because I mean, obviously I'm the one that stated that it blurs branding, tourism. It's an emotional and narrative to me, the current mission is, instead of actually stating what the purpose is.
Correct.
So, I agree with you.
Right. And it's thinking about the purpose of the city, right? So the purpose of the city, meaning this administration, okay? And then the vision, what are you hoping to create? And not to say that they're necessarily terrible, right? But it sounds like we want it to change. So I'm just we'll take a look at mission first. So the current one's at the top. And you have this in some of your documents, we'll talk about, okay, so this is the current. And not trying to, it's like, okay, we want to keep some of this, but also realize, like I said, landscape keeps changing. Not to say your role is necessarily changing, but the question is really clearly defining the purpose, right? So I started both of these other sentences, option B and C, to say the city of Castroville, because that is whose mission we're describing. Okay, so they're different but similar, but it's more about what's really in your bailiwick. What can you actually hopefully do as a purpose?
Again, smart.
Hmm?
Again, smart.
Yeah,
Specific.
yeah. Because
And typically a mission statement shouldn't have flowers. It's just a statement,
No fluff.
a brutal, attainable
Yeah.
statement.
right, because like the Chamber of Commerce is gonna have its mission statement, you know.
business, anything in that.
Yeah, it's gonna have their own, because they're describing what their purpose is. So what is the city's purpose in its mission, right? Why does it exist? What's its role? So, I don't know if either of these resonates better with you, if you have some thoughts, because we can always,
A strong inclination towards C, especially given the context of everything else that we're doing.
in terms of being the planning principles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. I like C.
You like C? Valerie's like,
Yeah, sometimes
Sorry.
I'm sitting well with me for C.
is there a part of it?
Thoughtful planning that protects our heritage while preparing for the future. That part reads as a vision and not a mission statement.
Okay,
Where the second one has the preserve community character, supports responsible growth, and enhance quality of life for residents.
Yes, and I feel like the one thing that may be missing from option B, this is just my opinion, is the financial responsibility.
that could fall under stewardship though.
That's fair, but I think I'm leaning more towards option B, to be
Thank
honest.
you.
Okay, so it's a stewardship. The stewardship, but like if you think about it, you are the steward of the financial assets for the city to make sure that they're not squandered, that they're used the right way.
And I say that, I think there's leadership for sure, and I think it's because there's been so much investment right now in the city due to the growth, that there is an underlying concern, I think, from citizens about the future and increased tax rates and utility rates and all of that stuff, right? So, yes, I think that's why it for me.
Well, and you have services, the only difference is C says quality public services. You're not necessarily saying that
Yeah.
in B, but you could. I think the leadership is definitely your job. And if you like responsible governance instead, but basically it's kind of the same thing. You still have the community character, that's,
I like B.
You like B?
I understand C with the, protects the heritage, but it's also referenced in there preserves community character.
right,
So
that's why I said it's similar but said different.
Yeah, that's right, it's said differently.
Well, I think there is a tangible difference.
Right.
And when I read C, to me, and I think of city governance, it is my expectation that that is in service to people who live there. And so I personally would not posit myself in saying, I am providing you leadership. I would, however, be far more inclined to go to you and be like, I can serve you in this way. Right? And if I don't serve you well, then somebody else is welcome to this spot. Right? Or something along those
Sure.
lines. But yeah, I think prioritizing the people that live here needs to be integrated into the language that gets selected for the purpose.
So if you took B and you had the city of Castroville provides responsible governance, which also implies accountability, being responsible, being accountable. And then you kept everything else, would that do it? No. Okay.
Which one are you leaning
What would
to?
do it? What would move the needle?
What do you want?
I was gonna say.
Which one do you think? You think?
I like C.
I don't like, support responsible growth. But like, manage growth,
Manage responsible growth or just manage
just manage growth.
growth?
Supports
You mean on B?
Yeah, on B. I mean, I
Yeah,
like
that's-
B, but it's.
that one's dumb.
How do you feel, Houston?
Why is it dumb?
What Tony said.
We're gonna have to disagree on that.
Although I can see that there is to me, I think there's redundancy in two. Like, do we need leadership and stewardship? Does one not imply the other?
Right.
And then,
Where responsible governance would probably be both. It
and,
could be
you know,
leadership and stewardship. But, stewardship has a little bit of a different meaning.
It does.
That stewardship usually means,
Leadership and stewardship are not the same.
yeah.
Stewardship is like, caring for things and taking care of it.
Yeah.
Leadership is leading
Yeah,
by
So
example.
let's put it down to C.
So they're different,
they are different, yeah. I think of stewardship as also being like a protector.
Right, care and
If
protection.
I have these assets, my job is to protect those assets. So whether it's money or other resources, I can be a leader, but not necessarily be a steward.
oh, we could
And I
take
can be the other way
stewardship,
around
but
too. I
it's-
can be a good steward and not a good leader.
Stewardship,
Right.
I think it protects.
Okay, should we take a stab at maybe crafting,
Would you do that?
I think.
hey, it'd be easy if you guys just said one over
Go
the other.
Yeah. B.
Thank you.
So you've now changed your mind.
I changed my mind.
Okay.
Okay, all right, how many of you like B?
Democracy at its best.
I'm leaning towards B. I'm open to correct.
Some, yeah,
Okay.
There's
So-
some smithing that can be done, yeah.
Okay, all right, and what about C?
I mean, I think tweaks no matter which
Okay.
direction.
You
But I'm not gonna die on this hill,
Right,
right?
all right.
I would not.
Okay, so those that like B, there's Valerie and Houston.
And the mayor likes it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cause I think, cause you guys like
So B.
stewardship. Cause I think the stewardship really,
They're different issues. They're different.
it's different, like I said, if you lead, stewardship means you have
You
a
have-
responsibility. It's, I think about like a lot of associations that I work with, it's like your members have given you investments.
You're protecting.
You are the stewards of those investments. They expect you to use the money well, not frivolously. And it should benefit them. So stewardship has this essence of responsibility that comes with the job.
Yeah, long-term preservation, responsibility, managing resources, ensuring organization
So you
thrives.
read a definition of stewardship.
Yes.
Okay,
Why
see?
am I beating this horse?
That's okay. All right, okay, so are you
We're
saying,
working with B.
are you saying you like the,
Yes, I mean, but to tokens, the support responsible growth.
you wanna change it to manage?
Manage growth.
I would say, I don't know.
Is it manage responsible growth?
I don't understand responsible growth. What is responsible growth?
I
Well,
think,
irresponsible
wasn't your
growth.
point just to say, and to
manage
manage growth?
Manage
Just
growth.
forget
Yes,
support,
manage growth.
forget responsible,
Okay.
just manage
Okay.
growth.
Okay, so manage, okay, and I can change that, so just, it's in the same, preserve community character, manage growth, and enhance quality of life.
I think that's
That's it.
a nutshell.
Okay, all right, I'll make that change.
That's a
So-
mission statement.
So we're good there?
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right.
We should always be looking at those issues.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Right.
change this one, I'm just gonna put manage.
Everything ties back, everything
Growth.
needs to be tied back.
And it sounds like that's it, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and we'll save that as it is. Okay, that was easy. All right, let's go to vision. Okay, you got, hey, you know what? That took us 15 minutes. That's actually not that bad. That's pretty good. Believe me. I've seen people spend a lot more time.
Vision.
Okay, so you've got your current.
What is it?
Oh, you know what? It's got a dot on it. I'm sorry.
Anything in time, right, with.
Okay, so right now it says, it's a little longer. charming town steeped in the rich history of brave and innovative pioneers.
No.
West Wind, blah, 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 architecture, blah, blah, blah.
It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, that's
I
done,
got it.
Okay.
that's done.
So 3 options, one's about growth and stewardship, again, it's describing the future. If you've done a good job with your mission, what does it look like? Doesn't mean you're there now, it means this is what you're hoping it will look like, okay? So one's really about growth and stewardship, the other one's around community character, and D is future focused. There's elements of
I
similarity.
like D, if I can, that's the.
Yeah, I like number 4.
I like number 4,
On team, Gina versus time.
I like to go with both of them, really, but combination, but I generally like 4, but first, and then I can pick and choose other parts of it. I don't know if it's connected, but it's resilient and prosperous community that balances growth, stewardship, investing in its people, infrastructure, and preserves the qualities that make it uniquely capital. I don't know if I want to say it's connected.
But that's part of the reason that I like it, is that when you're talking about, being future focused and wanting to create like layers and networks within the community and having people like come together, I think that's an excellent goal to have for us.
I just don't know.
I respectfully disagree with that, but that's okay, I understand that. But
Well, connected can mean different things. It can also have to do with mobility.
Well, not geographically speaking, where we're at connected.
we're not,
We're not, yeah. So I'm saying it can have different meanings,
right,
no,
I understand.
because there are some communities, like I work with Pearland Chamber, and they were saying, they said it's crazy. We have old Pearland, new Pearland, we have the red and the blue, we have young and the old, and they said but it feels very disconnected.
Well, in Castroville,
It's
for
not,
example,
it's not unifying.
you have the original footprint of the city, which is between the waters. You have East Castroville, which was developed in the 50s and 40s, but it's still New Castroville. Then you have the new subdivisions, which includes River Bluff and other things like
Right.
that are not part of the original part of the city.
Right.
So you have, depending on where you're at, it defines the part of the town.
Right.
And it's not all connected.
Right, yeah, and so I said, so it can have, and it's fine for it to have different interpretations.
Right.
It actually is a good thing.
But do we want it to be connected? Is that our vision? Do we want it to be?
I think
I
that,
understand.
and I think especially for some of the things, and because of course we can go back, or whomever can go back in different years and modify
Sure.
things. But think about some of the stuff that we're working on now, right? The transportation stuff that we're working on, the
Sure.
Road that that's going through. Also the connection between and the accessibility of, it's not more would it end up being like a green belt, but we've got, parks that are going over here and people who are interested in bicycling and trying to pull that together as a community. Oh, those are things that we're very much engaged in.
But there's more
Right
to
now.
it connected than just physical connections or
Yes.
transportation.
Right,
It's
Yeah.
connected through common goals and things
Yeah.
like that.
right.
It's connected
And-
through
and that's
common
something that Nicole was
values.
talking about,
It's
too.
not necessarily just
Yeah.
physical improvements or transportation. So, yeah, I understand, there's more
Okay.
to it than that. But it's all in how, just like everything else, and I'm looking beyond that, it's all in how people interpret that word is.
Yeah, a person driving into Castroville is gonna read that and go,
They're not connected.
Is someone driving through Castroville going to be reading our vision statement?
You never
No.
know.
I mean, someone who was considering
No,
moving here,
I
maybe.
literally mean that,
Maybe someone who's considering
Well-
moving here.
Castroville is a united, resilient, and prosperous community that balances growth and stewardship. Yada, yada.
Although sometimes united is difficult.
It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's like selling Castroville. Okay, to be perfectly just blunt about it, it's three. The thing that sticks out with me is the welcoming community.
Yeah.
Like there's very much a strong sentiment of insiders and outsiders that's just realistic.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
It's a reckoning scale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's
Yeah.
all kinds of,
Right.
you know,
And the
yeah,
reason,
business names.
and the other
trendies.
reason why you create a vision statement is because you wanna describe a desired future,
Sure.
and you don't have it right now.
Yeah.
And vision statements oftentimes create followers. Okay, like, okay, now this one's a little long compared to, you think about Alzheimer's Association. They have a very simple vision. It's a world without.
I guess what I'm trying to do this is I'm just gonna lay it out there.
Yeah,
The city has multiple plans on different aspects of the city over the last 30 years that are sitting on the shelf. Because at one time or another, when those plans were done, that the population said no, so they got put on the shelf. Then another one comes and gets put on the shelf. Then 3 years ago, there was all of those put together to form a new revising of all the rules, and now that's been put on the shelf. Because the population says no. So I don't want to create something that just gets put on the shelf because people don't agree with it, or they argue over the interpretation of what it means. I've been down enough, and so all everybody in here, that all it takes is a couple people say, well, your vision statement says this, and you're not responding to it.
Well,
So, and it happens. It happens a lot in this community.
it does. Okay, so when you
It's
look
to our
at,
resiliency.
That's
we
true.
keep coming back.
That-
Right.
but
It hasn't killed us yet.
So so going back and forth with the word connected, I mean, words matter, especially in a vision statement.
That's all.
So instead of connected with welcoming, thinking of as a suggestion, because everybody has said, people have said that, you know, Cashville is welcoming, we welcome people. Just a thought, we're not a welcoming.
So is your suggestion to
Remove
take
connected.
or
Which one?
take out, so yeah, so in
take out the word
we took out
connected.
connected,
Cashville is
insert-
a welcoming, resilient.
Cashville is a diverse, resilient, and prosperous community.
You're not terribly diverse.
But then you're talking vision.
And I think it depends on, you know,
But then- but then-
all other
But then we're gonna have to, but if we put that in as a vision and it's not sincere, then I think when we go back to issues of public trust and the rest of it, to say that we are looking for diversity and then not to have it show up in our leadership and our policies, I think that we've created a rift.
I don't like that word anyway.
no, because it's subject to interpretation.
Yeah.
And people naturally think of, well, not naturally, there are some people who look at diverse and think it has to do with race, and actually it
It
doesn't.
doesn't.
Diverse means exactly that, diverse, meaning
A mixture.
varied, different, mixed, and it could be industry, it could be people, it could be aspects of the town, it can mean so many different things, but it's open to interpretation, and that's why sometimes people don't like it, because they think that those who want to look at that as being negative are going to see negative in it, when actually it's not meant to.
No,
Cashville is a culturally mixed, resilient, and
I don't think you have to even say that, yeah. You
So
know,
Cashville can be a friendly, resilient, prosperous community that balances.
Yeah.
Friendly is generic enough, but has the sentiment.
so is a friendly,
Texas Friendly, we used to have the Red Vest Committee, you know? Pull that back, were you ever on that, Tobin? Have you heard
Yeah.
stories? Were you
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, so am I hearing that overall we like D, fourth, but connected is a word that we think we want to replace?
Clearly.
I think so.
Okay, and the word we want to replace it with, I mean, I like vibrant, but that's similar to prosperous. But vibrant also kind of has a sense of like it's happening.
We're missing the one term that describes the community,
Which is what?
historic.
I like vibrant, that's a nice word, I like that. What do you
That's
say,
historic,
Denise?
it's just downtown, I don't think they.
Vibrant's nice,
As a whole, sure, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
dynamic.
yeah, yeah, dynamic meaning that, dynamic means, it can also mean changing, it's not stale, it's not stuck in the
I get it.
past.
Apparently,
Well, I can and I will.
Okay, all right, so tell me what changes you would wanna make in that, knowing that this is the one that sounds like we kinda wanna go with.
Take credit for that too.
So, okay, so we like resilient,
we're taking out
we're
connected.
taking out connected, and what are we putting in its place?
Omnipotent.
What?
Oh my gosh.
And that's a word that people sometimes don't know the meaning of,
Spirited.
so,
I think friendly is a fine placeholder, because we don't have to make a decision on it, like, right now, that's gonna last forever and ever. It gives us a little bit of time to think of some synonyms or something.
so do you like, well, cause like someone said welcoming, and you're saying use friendly instead?
I would. Well, I guess it was, I'm saying it's an obvious.
I think friendly for at this moment. I'm sure, are we gonna be able to circle back on this?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so Castroville is friendly, resilient, and we like prosperous, do we like vibrant, do we like dynamic?
I don't think dynamic is ever.
Well, dynamic usually means that it doesn't stay still, it doesn't stay the same, and that can make some people like it or not like it.
Well, as a part of the package of the tourism and like the history of the area, seems to be in conflict.
Yeah. Do you like vibrant? Only reason why sometimes people don't like prosperous, because they're gonna say not everyone is
It's true.
prosperous.
At the same time, like vibrant has its own baggage.
No,
Yeah.
I like.
Say spirited, a spirited community.
That could go either way. Yeah, I think that's like when someone says, how you feeling?
I don't wanna say we're live.
Okay.
That's saying incredible or bad, just incredible.
Alright.
Are you working?
So I'm hearing vibrant, I'm hearing spirited, but okay. I mean, to me, you want vibrancy in the sense that you want it to
You wanna
know
build some
that
excitement in
it's
that
alive, it feels like it's happening, vibrant,
Active community.
yeah.
A vibrant, lively atmosphere, a bright color, or an energetic personality.
statement. There you go, we're energetic, we're not dead.
Jump in here, Leroy.
I'm looking for good words.
So instead of prosperous, we're saying, vibrant, I mean, I think most communities want to be vibrant because it just seems that it's something that's hard to maintain. Like, you can be vibrant when it's something new. Like, I think about Kansas City and how Kansas City, the center used to be further up north, but then, like I said, they have something new over here that's catching and attracting people, and it just seems like what was old is not vibrant anymore, because vibrant moves. Vibrant moves based on what new generations like.
It's a shift.
It's a shift. Yeah, but vibrant,
It doesn't take you away from this, but you're constantly
right,
going after, you're
Right.
not just stuck in the
yeah,
rock.
but you want your economy, and I think you want your community to feel like it's
I shouldn't
vibrant.
say it like that.
Because if you're not vibrant, you're probably dying.
That's it.
So, are you okay with that for now?
For now, yes.
And then bring it back to you tomorrow as a statement, and the reason why I bring it back to you tomorrow is because when you're looking at all these goals, does it sound like it's serving those two statements, and if not, what needs to change? Is the aspirational statement need to change, or is it what you say you're gonna do, right? Okay, how's that sound, good?
Yes.
Alright, so
Okay.
alright, so we've done that, again, just, like I said, mission, it's a fundamental purpose. Vision statement, I think we've kind of talked about that. Alright, so we're gonna
Can we
do,
get a copy of that slide before we leave?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, fundamental purpose. And you think about vision as being the future, okay? Always think about vision as being a destination. You are not there today. It needs to feel aspirational. because again, you're looking for followers. If you wanna see this too, you know, another nice thing to do if you come up with a final vision statement is if you can get an artist to sort of render what this looks like and create a visual to it or a set of visuals, because when people can actually see the future, they want the same thing.
Excuse me a second, these slides were not provided. So-
No,
I
it
agree,
can be.
yeah, no,
But I'm just
Yeah.
looking for everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can work.
And Leroy, I would give you the final deck because we're making a few changes here and there. Yeah, but, you know, like I said, even though you talk about, well, we're not there, we're not, blah, blah, blah. Vision's not about that. Vision's about,
It's forward thinking.
it's forward thinking,
And it's
okay? It's fluid, yeah. You're just saying, this is, you know, if we do all this right, this is kind of what we think it might look like, all right? Okay, all right, so the last thing we're gonna do today is the priorities, okay?
Think of what?
Strategic priorities. And remember I said earlier, we usually like to have 3 to 5. Some like 3. And the way I look at this is, I really see the fourth one, governance, trust, and organizational effectiveness, having a lot more to do with internal, in terms of how you operate, right? The other ones, if you think about it, are outwardly focused and hopefully beneficial to the residents, okay? So responsible growth and development, this has come up over and over again. It's in your emerging issues, but it's also been something you guys have been grappling with, I think, in your other plans that you've created. So you have a name of the priority area, and then you have a statement. That statement can definitely tomorrow be refined. It can be shorter. I think that was a little long, because the whole gist of it is exactly what we talked about here, right? The invest responsibly, thinking about long-term, you know, preservation. It's a little bit of that. It's that balance around growth, okay? I think that's important, and all we're saying right now is, let's just agree on the 4 areas. If you want to wordsmith the intention purpose statement, you can do that today. But we're gonna build from that tomorrow and actually say, and what are the particular goals that are associated with this, okay? Infrastructure and community assets. You have that right there as a responsibility. We're saying that's a priority area. And again, I think that embeds some of this. Now, what might come up though is this community character and quality of life. Because community assets is part of that. I look at community character maybe a little bit different in the sense that it's the community and what your role in that community might be. So community character, quality of life, yes, it's got the character, heritage part, but it's also about sense of place. If you feel that you have a role in that. And then this 4th one here is a lot of what we've been talking about, and it's governance, capacity, communication, accountability, all the other things that you guys mentioned. We're saying that that's something we have to work on. And the reason why you call something out as a priority, as a standalone, is because you think it's important, and if you don't pull it out and have its own color, you won't do it. Do you think that these 4 areas are the right priority areas for the plan?
I'm not sure about the last one, but that's the first 3.
Which ones? The growth, responsible growth, infrastructure?
For me, if I had to rack and stack them, it'd be infrastructure and then growth and development.
Okay.
But as you were saying, governance, trust, organizational effectiveness, that's a very internal.
It is internal. I guess the question though is that if this was a public, usually your strategic plan is public facing,
That's the public trust.
And since they want to trust you and they want that transparency or the communication, does it make sense to say that that's one of the things that we think is important enough to make it a priority?
That's something that's public facing, I'm public and I'm reading that, that to me almost becomes a red flag
Oh,
of what kind of issues that there have been, that you need to say this and like tell me that everything's all right. And
but
something's
it can
happening.
also be an honesty thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, it
that,
can. I
that
just-
we
that's-
we want to govern well, we want to have the trust of the public.
I'm just telling you how I would read it. So
Yeah.
it's- You wanna fight in the parking lot?
That's an odd way to
You wanna get it trickled?
I'm the one that came up with that one. And I think a lot of it is that when I think a strategic document, it is both for inside the organization and also for the public.
Yeah.
So it has to address two different audiences. One document needs to address two different audiences. So I completely acknowledge what Nicole says, but then at the same time, we owe it to the public to say, hey, we are also keeping an eye out on staff themselves to provide these public services in a stewardship type manner.
Right.
So that's how that one came about. So
And, yeah,
When you're talking about the government's trust and things like that, I understand the comments about that, but I've been working in the local government arena for 40 years. It is a small community, be it here, be it in Washington, whatever. There's an inherent mistrust. And for lack of clarity, there's people that formulate their own opinions, and that breeds the mistrust. So it's very important that you leaders emphasize the trust, and you're constantly working to maintain that trust that you've earned, because all it takes is there's an issue going on, for example, in the city, and I'm not going to go into particulars, but we had this conversation the other day. I said, this one issue just took away 6 weeks worth of attaboys. That's how bad this issue was. It just happened just this week. So you have to work hard every day in a small community to maintain that public trust.
well, I like the other thing that Valerie pointed out is when you have a plan
Yes,
that internally has to be supported, it also creates accountability
yes,
externally. So if trust and transparency and communication, those things are important. They're not just important externally, they're
Right.
important internally
Absolutely.
in the organization. So you're just calling it out to say, this is important enough that we made it a priority so that you can be rest assured that we are working on this every day. Now, I'm looking ahead for tomorrow, but tomorrow, I think for each of these priority areas, I've given you like I'm giving you 4 potential goals. I don't expect you to have 4 goals. I expect you maybe to pick 2 or 3. But the reason why you would have separate goals is because there's different ways to approach the I'm looking at the bank.
Right.
So there's different ways to approach the priority, okay? So for instance, under governance, trust, and organizational effectiveness, the one goal says governance roles, responsibilities, and expectations are clearly understood. Okay, that's 1. Goal 2, decision-making is transparent, accountable, and aligned with city priorities. And that means how you go about making decisions needs to support the overarching priorities. Goal 3 says organizational capacity supports implementation and long-term success, which means we have the internal resources to deliver on what we say we're gonna do. And the 4th one says public trust and community confidence are strengthened. That has to do with communication, public participation, visibility of city projects, services, and accomplishment. So these are like 4 different ways to get the trust and the effective governance and accountability. I'm not saying you can't just saying, there are 4 different ways to get there. So if you think that, the overarching priority is valid, tomorrow you have to say, what exactly would we work on? Okay, and what can be measured? And that's in the thing. So I guess the question is, do we see that governance, trust, and organizational effectiveness is a priority of its own that we should be able to say, this is important to us, we're gonna work on this.
It is a problem. I mean, the baseball fields is a perfect example of public confidence, because thanks to social media, people thought that council was totally against the baseball fields and the baseball and Castroville and everything, and that's not.
None of that was true.
None of that was true. But yet, we're still working on gaining the public confidence on that. So I believe it is a problem. Social media kills every organization no matter what. And so we're having to constantly build public confidence.
Right, and this is, and like I said,
That's what I'm getting at is there's some people, no matter what, and of course, I use the term people, but they're inherently just, they don't trust anything.
And they
So with lack of information and accurate information, even with accurate information, they formulate their own positions and it spreads like wildfire. So you're constantly fighting the negativity and the mistrust. So I think it's important that city council, in their policies, in their rules, in the things, that you say what you mean and mean what you say. And so results build trust.
and to be able to share, facts.
Yes.
Or like I said, when you make your council meetings public, available because they're there. The way that you're live streaming your meetings, these are all things that you're already trying to do. The only thing is, all you're doing is you're formalizing it.
But it's a constant.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't say, oh, I got it, so I'm gonna sleep on it now. No, it's a constant thing. Not necessarily always the frontline thing, but it's always part of the conversation. It's always there.
Okay, so it sounds like it is part of what you need to do. Okay, now, like I said, the purpose statements underneath it, I think that can be wordsmith tomorrow, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about, first, like I said, I want to just get agreement on the priority areas. Tomorrow, you guys will actually wordsmith, decide what the goals are. I've given you potential strategies for each goal, but you may come up with your own. You might say, I like this one, but not this one. And I'll tell you that where the work happens for the staff is implementing the strategies. Okay? So strategies provide direction. Do things that look like this, that drive this outcome. Their job is to say, okay, how are we going to do that? Whether it's about social media in that case or whatever it is, they have to operationalize strategy.
And you need to map out their process and make sure also that anything that
Right.
crazy maker.
Yeah.
You
And
have to
they
be
have,
responsive, you
yes.
have to show results.
Exactly.
And those are the type of things that builds the trust.
right.
But it's at every level. It's not
Yes.
just at the management level,
No.
every worker bee.
Yes.
And that's what our staff has to understand.
Sure.
With everybody.
But the way I look at it too is strategies are very broad.
Yes.
Strategy is not, have a weekly newsletter that informs our residents. That's not. The strategy is something about communication, but it needs to be broad so
Sure.
that everything that they do supports that strategy, okay? Not so narrowly focused, right? But it also has to last 3 years. And usually what we end up trading out are tactics or operational things. Strategies usually don't change very much because they're directional. So do these sound like the 4 areas? Responsible growth and development, infrastructure and community assets, community character, quality of life, governance, trust, and organizational effectiveness.
All of the
probably big picture questions that you brought up all somewhere, are answered somewhere in this particular variety of priorities. So to me, it reads like it covers things well.
And then I think about the mission statement that we drafted up today.
Yes, ma'am.
Partially our vision statement, we're still refining that, but also the principles that we.
We're gonna go with C here.
Yeah, so I think, from the outside right now, I don't see.
It was B.
It was B.
Oh, sorry, it's B.
I was like, that was a holdout for
Oh,
C.
that was a holdout,
Yeah.
that's fine,
Yeah.
okay,
So,
so, yeah,
Yeah, B.
yeah, we go
And
back.
change managed growth.
I did that, yeah, okay,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
I did that. Okay, so we're gonna go with B, right? So we're saying leadership, services, stewardship, that preserves community character. And that's why I said, I think you have to describe, well, how are you gonna do that? Manage growth and enhance quality of life. So I think the goal 3 is the community character and enhance quality of life piece of it. The governance part, and accountability is goal 4, okay? And the managed growth is its own thing. The only thing that you don't see infrastructure necessarily in the mission statement.
No, but that's enhanced quality of life for residents.
Yeah,
The infrastructure's all jacked up.
Yeah, it's the stuff you have to create and build in order to deliver on the services, and to help manage the growth. So it's almost like a how to those things, right? But it's pulled out as its own part.
It seems it's nested at this point.
Yeah.
Our mission statement.
Right.
Vision will still flesh out even the planning principles.
And your mission statement really shouldn't list everything that you do.
Right.
Okay? It's basically describing roles. And then what's different than in the priorities, growth and development is something, you said you're gonna manage growth as one of the things that you're gonna do in your mission statement. This priority area is all about how you're going to do that. The infrastructure, community assets, these key components that you need for growth and quality of life, how are you gonna manage those things? And then the community character and quality of life is about that preservation, sense of place, quality of life. Also, I think it's communication, it's your community development piece of it. And then the last one, goal 4, is really around, like you said, governance, trust, leadership, internally in alignment within the organization itself. Okay, so, does that sound good to you?
Yes.
Okay, you can do the wordsmithing tomorrow. Tomorrow, what I'm gonna do is you're gonna stay in these groups, and is
Really?
that okay with you?
Okay.
Do your best to handle it.
Are you guys good with
Yeah,
being in
I'll
the
try
same
to
groups?
I think he doesn't like her very much.
I'm okay if you guys want to change the order of the groups.
We're good.
You good?
We're good.
Okay,
Yeah,
So-
Jim, you're gonna hang out
okay,
here.
so what we're gonna do tomorrow, and maybe that's something we can talk about before we break you guys up tomorrow. I'm gonna have each group take on 2 of these. You're gonna look at the bank, we'll give you flip chart paper, and you're going to, do any wordsmithing. Okay?
So we'll take infrastructure and
That's-
growth for 250.
That's exactly it. I think that well, okay, but here's how it's gonna work, is we want everybody to weigh in on everything.
Right.
Each group will take 2. You'll get a period of time to flush those out, okay? We want to decide on your proposed goals and strategies,
Okay,
okay? The other group will do the other 2, and then we'll flip,
gotcha.
okay? So you'll get a chance to weigh in. Yes,
Whatever.
but I don't know
Keep ready.
how we want to define.
We each got last time.
Yeah. So, do you guys wanna decide where you wanna start first tomorrow?
Let's go ahead and do that now, because
And that way, I
we
mean,
walk in and we're good to go.
Everyone's turned into like a 12-year-old.
Right.
this is where we are. Okay,
We'll just split it down the middle.
so,
Whatever.
okay, so do you think, okay, so you think growth and development and infrastructure and community assets, that those should be combined? Because they're sort of,
Whatever my team would like.
like, for instance, if you're gonna take two, does it make sense that those two get paired together and these two are so different from each other, right? How should we divide them up efficiently? So that each group gets two.
We're
I
gonna
think the
work
mayor
on
should
all
tell
of them
us.
anyway,
You are,
so.
Infrastructure, community assets, and community
I'm
character, quality
good.
of life,
What would you like? Is that what you suggest?
I think those two are lumped together, because I mean,
Then
quality of
let that
life and infrastructure.
okay, so
So
these
crisscross.
two, okay, yeah, so these two will be worked on by a group initially.
Which two do we have?
And responsible growth
Should
and
be
governance.
Oh, flip a coin.
I'm a really nice
Rock, paper,
person.
scissors?
Yeah.
Alright, rock, paper, scissors.
Wait, ready?
Okay, alright, 1, 2, 3. What's that?
What's that?
Fire, burn him up.
Rock, paper, scissors, pots.
Go ahead.
That one.
Go ahead, fire.
Fire, fails no matter what.
Alright, fire, one, or we gonna
Yes,
Do you know which one you guys
do
have?
the infrastructure, quality of life, or do you wanna do the responsible growth?
Infrastructure and
Community character. Okay, we're doing the,
okay. So you guys will start with that one.
Okay.
You guys will start with those, so when I do the assignments on the slide,
I don't mind.
I'll reflect that.
that.
and then you guys will flip, okay? Now, I think that, to me, there's pros and cons and whether you're going first or second. When you are starting the process, you're kind of deciding what that structure looks like, okay? The second group comes along, they either support it or they will fund it.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So,
We'll do it either way.
you're good either way, you either take the lead or you end up finishing it,
We will take it either way.
either way,
We will yield to whatever position they'd like to be.
okay?
We're that confident.
Okay, so so this group's gonna take these two, you guys are gonna take. Yes. All right, so we'll think we're gonna end an hour early.
Wow, okay.
Oh, yeah, we don't have another meeting after this.
No, not that I'm aware of, but I know that, Mr. Marchman, you're gonna take care of Kathy this evening.
What, you?
Well, I was gonna say, I'm gonna go to the hotel and
We're in there, stay on the hill?
stay in the.
Sure, we can, Lori and I can take you out to dinner.
Well, I was just thinking it would be nice to have dinner and,
Well,
I don't
I
know, you guys
was
have
gonna
a
I was giving you a
favorite
point
place?
on like the historic, his wife is on the historic landmark commission.
oh, okay.
And,
Yeah.
and give you a little bit into the history of Castro, anybody else would like to join, obviously. You know, that I don't know.
Well, and I think if you have a restaurant or a thing that you think is uniquely
How about-
Castroville, it would be
Do
nice
they,
to
do they have
experience
that
that.
working up there?
yeah,
Or
it's-
Juliana's or whatever?
yeah, they just got done redoing the whole thing, it's
If
okay.
you don't mind, if that's.
No, no, what
Okay, I
time?
appreciate that.
Doesn't matter to me. What do you think?
Say 6?
6, okay.
Okay,
And then we'll pull up, let me get your phone number.
before we end really quick, and this is not this thing, I just wanna tell you, I sent everybody a picture there. This is Cat Public Works, these are from 20 years ago, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. Castro used to be with Public Works, community service and public education. And they really need to get back that, used to have yellow for gas, red for electric, green and yellow, green and blue rulers. We gave out to kids to help them for education, got water programs in the school and everything like that. We need to get back to doing stuff like that.
Oh,
I
yes,
just wanna
definitely.
make that point. They're not expensive, but it's just little PR things. We need to do those things. PD already does it, we need to do it so much, it's not going.
Okay.
Can we leave our stuff in here?
But we need
Well, how are
to
you gonna go home and
Yeah.
go through your list of stuff for May?
Well, you don't have to, I mean, you
I
might
didn't
find
know
out.
we were looking at this morning.
Well,
So
you,
you picture things from the thing for the.
but like I said,
If you did, like,
Yeah.
I believe you, I just.
you're gonna get a chance to look at them tomorrow, but like I said, my intention is not to say adopt them, it's just to give you ideas. But I'm hoping you'll come up with something that you guys feel
Sharp around the wall.
is the best approach. It's-
That's it.
You know this place better than I do.
Well, and you see this.
And you've been for a while in this role, so that will also help, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Okay, all right, number, yes, 303 931.
Okay, that, excuse me, I wanna make sure, I'm sorry.
No.
Hang on a second.
Thank you.
I just wanna make one thing, are
Yeah,
we wrapping up for the day?
Sorry?
Are we wrapping up for the day?
Yes, sir.
Then what I'd like to do is close the meeting, but please, before we do that, I need to make sure we close this meeting the proper way,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Yes, sir.
And I don't know how.
We'll stand up, Leroy.
Leroy is gone, but Deborah should be here, so if y'all will just hold on.
Deborah's not here.
She's supposed to be, or on her way. We'll find out, but we'll close the meeting, hold on just a moment, folks. Remember the camera and the recorder?
I was so excited. We all have cards.
Yeah.
They're up there in front. Well, I knew that they were in the works. I just didn't know that there had been ones that had been printed.
Yeah.
And I was slightly entertained that I was, maybe someone sent me an email, I missed it. But I was unaware that they were there.
That's KT.
So I'm about to start like moving around to the neighbors.
Right? Leave our stuff. Keep it back.
Y'all hold on a moment, because we're trying to get someone to officially shut down the live stream. So,
Can I pause it and turn off the sound?